And welcome back to the Women's Speeches Championship. Grandmaster Robert Hess here alongside the one, the only Anna Cramling. Anna, we had an exciting day yesterday. Are you even more excited for today's semifinals?
I am. We had a very, very exciting day yesterday, but today's the semifinal, so it's going to be even more exciting. I'm sure about that. So, yeah, I'm really happy to be here, Robert.
I'm happy you're here as well. And we will start with one semifinal at a time. We'll start off with Vaishali Rameshbabu. She will be taking on Anna Ushanina. And we see their ratings stacked up against one another. The first thing that stands out to me is Anna's, well, you're Anna. I keep doing this. Anna Ushanina's amazingly high blitz rating on chess.com, 2781. So she's proven to be an absolute force, hasn't she, Anna Kremlin?
Yes, yes. No, I mean, it's very, 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 very impressive. She has such a high rating. I had no idea before that her rating was so high on chess.com. So, yeah, very impressive. It's going to be really fun to see today's match, especially because Vaishali yesterday, I mean, she played very, very tactical, but she won 6 games in a row. So even though Anna Shanina, maybe it's the more experienced one of these two, I think it's going to be quite a close matchup.
I agree. And if you look at the bullet ratings, those are about equal. So if Vaishali can hang in there in the blitz, she's done extraordinarily well thus far, then it really is either player's match because their bullet ratings are so close. And over the board in classical chess, they're pretty similar in rating. And Vaishali, she is the younger of the two players, so maybe she's still in ascent. Well, remains to be seen. But let's remind everybody of the format because the players had to qualify to get here, both of them. There were 6 Swiss tournaments. Any titled female player could take part. And then there are 8-player knockouts. The top 8 people from those Swisses would go on to a knockout. The top 2 in the knockout would qualify for what we have here, the Grand Prix. And then the best 2 finishers from the Grand Prix ultimately will play a super final. But let's talk about these Grand Prix. You have 4 of them, 21 participants, plus a wild card in each leg. And in each Grand Prix, it's knockout. You only have one match, one shot. If you lose that match, then you're out. If you win the match, you keep on going on. So, Anna, just remind everybody of these 30-minute segments of 5 minutes plus 1 second, 30 minutes of 3 seconds, 3 minutes plus 1 second, 10 minutes of 1 plus 1. What have you learned from yesterday's action? Like, do you have any insight into the kind of the time controls, how to get a comeback? Because we did see Gunina make a comeback yesterday against June. So, what does it take?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think that it's really important to think about it. I said it yesterday, but that the fact that it's just 1 second increment. So the increment is very, very, very little. So it's not typically you play a lot of times you play 3 plus 2, 5 plus 2. And that extra second, having 2 seconds does a bit of difference. But when you only have 1 second, then you really have to be quick with the mouse. So that's something that we saw yesterday. You have to really be quick with the mouse. And yeah, time is such an important factor here. I think that's something really important to think about too. And lastly, confidence. We could see that, for example, Gunina versus June yesterday. I thought that was a really big thing. When Gunina started winning a couple of games, you could really tell that she started to play better, much better than before. So I think that confidence and being fast are 2 very important things here.
And they may play a role in each other. If you're confident, you're playing more quickly. And then, as you said, it's only 1 second increments. If you are in time trouble, you can build up some of your clock, but it doesn't build up that fast. So you have to be pre-moving at the right times and playing very quickly. And to remind everybody of what is at stake here, that there's 12 Grand Prix points for the first place overall winner, 8 for second. You can see 6 and 5 for third and fourth. So there will be a third place matchup and different prize funds at stake. So they know they're getting at least $700, at least 5 points in the Grand Prix. And there are 4 legs. We should remind everyone the overall schedule here that today, the 26th semifinals, we'll get a rest day tomorrow. Anna, you and I will be back on Sunday for the finals of leg 1. And then the next legs just go right after that. So it's a pretty much nonstop affair, this Women's Speed Chess Championship in the end of the month of June and then into July.
Very exciting that it goes on for so long.
I'm pumped about it. I think it's a really cool event. I'm glad that the format is the way it is because it's just you just get nonstop chess. And what more could you ask for?
Nothing more you could ask for. No, I think it's great. And I really like as well, just like you said, the format, the fact that I've never seen this before, this 5 plus 1, 3 plus 1, and then 1 plus 1. I think it's a very cool format and it really tests the players in different time controls.
Yeah, and it's what's been used for the Speed Chess Championships, and it's exhausting. We've heard Vaishali yesterday. You asked her well, you lost the first game. What did you do to change it? I didn't have time to do anything, right? Like, I had to play the next game immediately, and that can be good for some players, especially if you feel like you're playing well. You can just go next game, next game. But if you're struggling, it can be a sort of a nightmare. And we saw Alexandra Kostenyak, for instance, on day one. She beat Gunay Mamadzada 11-0. And on a different day, that would be a much closer match. But if you're not in the right form and your opponent is, you could really just score almost no points. And in that case, that was a complete zero.
Especially because all of the players here are so strong. There's not a single player which is not strong, basically. So everyone really has to be on their best. All of the players here are and so that's strong. Why also form is really important. There's not a single player
for sure,
which is not
and
strong, basically. So
we will see the
really
action get started in probably just a minute now. Going to get confirmation on that. Make sure the players are set. They look pretty set to me. Get started in probably just a minute now. And going to get confirmation on that. Make sure the players. I keep making you make predictions. I'm not going to make you do that right now because I know that Vaishali, that's your friend, someone who we've played against before. So you probably have a slight leaning towards her. I don't know. It's hard for me to figure out who should be the favorite between these two because both of them have been impressive towards her.
I was actually just gonna ask you who you thought was gonna be your favorite, who you thought was gonna win, but you took it first. So,
well, I'm glad that I got ahead of you because I put you on the spot all the time. I figure that somebody's going to do it to me. So here I am just saying that I don't know. I think that Ushanina has to be a slight favorite based on her play thus far. And so here I am just saying that. Yeah, I don't know. I think that Vaishali is more than capable though of beating her in this match. And
yeah. No, it was insane yesterday. I mean, Ushanina, she played so well. We could see that yesterday. She played so well and won the match against Lagna. But we can see that games are starting now. The game has started. The first game in 5+1. So
they are. So we have this last move was E5 by Vaishali taking on this London system. E4 was a threat, which is why the bishop retreated to C2 because if that bishop stayed on D3. Here comes E4 with a fork. If I can draw my arrows better. And instead, bishop c2 was played. So now e4 isn't as strong. It may not be a bad move, but Vaishali instead decides to keep the tension. So Anna, let me ask you, how would you decide between playing e4 and then d5 or keeping the pawn e5, which gives you the possibilities of capturing on those squares so the pawns are attacking each other?
You know, I think that I would stay on e5. Yeah, I think that e4 is just really fixing the position basically. So I think I would stay on e5. And now we see that take has happened. So yeah, but I don't like sometimes playing e4 too quickly for black because then you retreat to d2 and you can put some pressure there. And yeah, I think it's just very much fixing position. This is a bit more flexible, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And another benefit of this is the bishop on b7 actually is staring down the knight. You probably don't want to capture the knight, or it's not anytime soon. But if you played e4, the bishop is just becoming a passive piece, protecting the pawn e4. And as you said, white can just easily maneuver around it. And especially now that you've captured on e5, if you play e4, this knight comes into d4. There used to be a white pawn there. And once the knight gets to d4, it'll probably come into f5. So I think I really approve of the way Vaishali is handling this. And already she's threatening knight to c4. And well, Anna, it feels to me like black can start even playing for an advantage.
I think that black is definitely playing for an advantage. That knight on c4, that's the same thing. Now that the pawn is on a3, once again, it becomes a bit more difficult to play b3 as the pawn on a3 is hanging. So it's really the perfect time to place the knight on c4. But now she played bishop b3 to, I guess, is she gonna take it now? Is she gonna take the knight?
She might feel like she has to. I personally wouldn't love that because the bishop on b7 is so strong on this diagonal. So if you take on c4, I just take with my rook. And I sort of have a free hand in the position. No targets for white to exploit because black's position is very solid. She plays a4 here. And that's probably a good move. I'm looking at queen b4 type ideas, either now or in the very near future. Maybe taking on f3 first, because if you take with a queen on f3, your pawn on b2 is lost. So bishop f3, I think, forces g takes f3. So I would probably start with that move.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. So then would you have to take with the g pawn if bishop takes f3?
Yeah, and that's makes your king. Oh, she does it. Makes your king feel less safe. And I'd play queen b4 now. Just after my opponent plays a4, I want to bring my queen over to b4, put pressure on the b2 pawn.
No, I'm really starting to like this for black, and I think that this is the type of position that Vaishali also really likes. with the king open and with the knight on c4. I think the queen b4 maybe is going to be the move that she's going to play now. Seems like a very strong move, attacking the bishop and attacking the pawn on b2.
And she plays it. And also, her pawn on b5 was under attack, so she kind of does everything at once by queen b4. And now the question is, Anna, how would you take here? Would you take with the rook? Well, she answered it with the rook, but I wasn't sure if you
we don't even have time to answer. It's so quick.
I wasn't sure if you take with the rook or the pawn, because taking with the pawn on c4 would have opened the b file for a potential attack on b2. But of course, taking with the rook also makes sense, although there may be some knight takes b5 now. So actually, can I just steal that pawn?
Yeah, can you take on b5?
I think you can tactically. There she does it.
She is taking it.
And that's the problem, is this rook on c4 is now attacked twice. So if you capture on c1, after you remove your rook from c4, the queen on e2 defends the knight on b5. So tactically, the knight on b5 is actually defended here.
Yeah. Do you think that was a mistake then to take with the rook on c4? Do you think she missed this?
Yeah, I definitely think she missed it. She was playing to keep the position kind of the status quo. She liked how it was going for her, but now she's down a pawn and she plays rook to b8. But you actually can't win the pawn back right away, as they're back rank checkmates. So you have to give your king some space before you think about taking on b2. But this knight is coming right to c4, and it very quickly is turning around. I wouldn't say that white is not even close to winning or anything just yet, but white is definitely the side to be preferred here.
Yeah, and then white is the one who's pressuring to win. So I think that she's going to start. Do you think that she can maybe put some pressure on that white king?
That's what she's hoping for.
With the h pawn, I mean.
Yes, I mean, if you get that pawn all the way to h3, then there's some possibilities. But already I'm looking at this pawn e5. That's under attack. So you have to time this very well. Maybe rook c8, just kind of pinning this knight for now if he plays it. But eventually white will try to play b3 and then free up the rook from c1. But it takes a little bit of time. So I think that Vaishali did the right thing by playing h5. And I mean, Anna, you asked a great question. Can you get h4? Can you get h3? Maybe rook c6, move the knight out of the way, rook over to g6. But everything I'm saying here, I feel like it looks decent, but it's not actually going to amount into an attack. It's just kind of
it's not going to completely work at the end.
Yeah, you don't have enough pieces over there. That's what I'm sort of thinking.
Yeah, no, there's not enough pieces.
Here's a committal decision that now I'm going to ask you. Can black play e4, or not can, but should black at some point consider e4 to break open the position even more?
Yeah, I was just looking. I think that she's planning on doing it, but I was just thinking if takes a pawn on h5 would maybe be a bit weak. So I think she's planning on playing e4 now and then taking the rook to g5. But I definitely think she should do that. She needs to open up the position as much as she can, I think.
Yeah, there are two.
When she's a pawn down.
There are two competing strategies. Either you sit and do nothing, which humans have a hard time doing, but engines are like, if I do nothing, how is white going to make progress? And that's a good question in this position. But she's taking the other option of, I'm going to go for an attack. And if I can distract your pieces, make you defend, then you're going to have a hard time making any sort of progress. So after h4, the question is, well, do I need to stop this pawn with pawn h3 or something like that? Or, is black really threatening to go h3? Is that part of the idea? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. Maybe it's just that she doesn't want the king to advance either. But I'm just thinking practically, maybe it's a good choice for her to do something like this. Because as you said before, it's very difficult for humans to just sit back. And when you have very little time, I guess that she just wants to find a plan that she can work on when it's a blitz game. So, but what would you do? Would you have gone for something like this, or would you just have sort of sat back and tried to defend?
I like to think that I'm very patient, but I know that it's hard for me to sit and do nothing and just kind of move back and forth. So I probably would have done the same thing. I think that it does give black good chances. You have this pawn on h4. At some point, you're going to consider playing pawn h3, like queen f5, pawn h3 check. That will force the white king back to the first rank if you allow me. But after queen f5, what I'm really thinking is white will just play h3. And I just don't see where the initiative is really coming from. I see a check, and that's about it. But maybe black's going to play g5. Why not? Blow the whole thing open.
Yeah, that's the question. I think it would be better if Ushanina had a bit less time, because she does have 1 whole minute more than Vaishali. So I think that Vaishali would feel better if she was a minute up and had some attack than the other way around.
But this has been a staple of Ushanina's plays. Every single game, she's been making sure that she'll spend, I'm looking at the time spent per move. A couple moves ago, there's 20 seconds, 18 seconds, 18. She's spending quite a deal of time on moves, but she's conserved her time so well in the opening stages. And I think that's because she played the London system in this game. She plays the Caro-Kann and gets familiar variations with the black pieces. So she's very well versed in her openings, and that's important in Blitz.
Definitely. No, I think that's such an important thing. I mean, that's decisive in these type of games. So once again, it's not only how well the players play, but it's also how they can manage their time. And Ushanina is definitely doing an amazing job at that. So yeah, Queen B3.
Stopping
Where's the
pawn.
queen going?
It's just trying to make White's forward progress as difficult as possible. I'm thinking knight d6 now, hitting f7, hitting e4. The white king is actually quite safe over here. So if I can play a move like knight d6, which attacks multiple pawns, maybe knight e5, I'm not sure which square, and then queen h5, something like that. I'm starting to attack black's pawns because I don't care about the b2 pawn as much as you might think. I care more about going after some of your kingside pawns and creating threats on black's.
No, of course, of course. And I think there might be a counterattack, just like you're saying. Look, she played knight to 6, just like usual. When Robert says a move, that's a move that is being played. so, so yeah, I think that definitely that's what she's going for. So that's why she's maybe trying to exchange queens now.
Yeah.
Although, of course, if she takes, I guess that pawn will become very strong, the d pawn. So she cannot take.
Although she's going to take and break. I've seen king f1,
Oh.
but okay, king f3, same idea. The only issue with king f3 is you may think you can play e4, but then have knight takes f4. So that actually would be a blunder, and a very big blunder. So you cannot play e4, which is why I like the simple king f1, king e1, king d2. I could have sat right in front of that pawn. And now I would play f5. Okay, she doesn't, which means king e4 is probably just good now.
Yeah.
Or e4. I'm not sure which one.
Will that pawn actually be strong, or will it just be weak, you think? Because now that I'm looking at it, it might just become a weak pawn at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's weak. In my opinion, it's weak. And that's why black really needed to play f5, because that would have cut the e4 square off. You could have still played e4, but you would have double isolated your pawns on f4 and f2. Now you have perfectly healthy pawns here. You have a good central extra pawn for white. And so king d2, king c3, and I think you're just forcing the win of this d3 pawn.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is just looking really good for white now.
Just to be careful about g4. Wait. There's going to be a g4 idea. Right now? Wait, take on d3 and play g4? Or the king gets back in time. She should have started with...
Oh,
the king comes to e2 to f1, and then white will win the game. But she should have started with g4 before moving her king. She went... Oh, what? No, this is bad. G takes h3.
What?
And now... King d6, you win the pawns. You're in the box. You're in the box. Black is going to win this game. Because once you
get to win this game. Charlotte's going to win this.
Oh my gosh. In mutual time trouble. I understand exactly why Ushanina went for this. But the king is in the box.
The king is in the box.
And white's king can't move because h2, h1.
No.
This is the second time in this game.
It's going to be a 6-1 there.
Oh my gosh. The second time in this game that Ushanina went king f3 instead of king f1. And both times it was pretty costly. Wow.
Wow. I mean, that just completely turned around. She had to go king f1, right?
Yeah, I'm going to bring up the old board really quickly just to show that moment, because king f3, it's king e3 was the bad move. King e2 takes, you have king f1, you simply go king g1, king h2. That would have been winning for white, as you see the evaluation bar. So she brought the king to the wrong side. It paid the full price. We are now on to the second game here, where Ushanina has black. She's playing her beloved Caro-Kann. And Anna, how do you bounce back from a game like that?
You know, I think that you just have to think there's so many more games left. We got 17 more minutes of 5+1. Then we have 30 of 3+1, and then 10 of 1+1. One game is not the end of the world. It really isn't. Vaishali lost the first game yesterday and won 6 in a row. So I think that you just have to do what Vaishali said yesterday. You just have to enjoy the chess, play your best chess, and not think about it. But it's a very easy thing to say and a very difficult thing to do when you're playing. So we just have to hope that that's the way Ushanina thinks, at least.
And Ushanina now down on the clock in this opening. The queen just stole a pawn on b7. So temporarily, white has taken 2 pawns. Black has taken this knight on f3. But the point is this bishop on f3 is still under attack, and this knight on c6 similarly so. So d4 protects the knight, but you take the bishop. Now the knight's under attack again. I am not super familiar with this opening, but it looks fascinating to me. Queen b4. So if you take the bishop, there's queen a4 check, I think.
Yeah. Oh, wow. This is very tactical. This really feels like a Vaishali opening.
She's playing very quickly. So not only does it feel like it, it really seems evident of the fact that it is. And if the king goes to e7, all right, now you can take this knight. So I think she steals the knight. How many pawns is white ahead right now? 2 pawns? I can't count.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 2 pawns. Two pawns right now. Unless, yeah, I guess so.
So 2 extra pawns for white, but a very complex position because both kings are in the center. The good news for white is that after e takes f2, king takes f2, my king still is relatively safe because you don't have enough pieces to attack me. So
yeah.
What do you
and the bishop, the dark square bishop for black is gonna go through g6, I guess. So she's gonna play g6 and then get, or is she? Or no, she's planning to play knight c6 maybe.
Yeah,
what's the plan?
Yeah, no, you're right. Knight c6, knight g6, bishop e7 makes sense. But
yeah,
no matter what, it feels like white should play a move like b4 to protect this pawn c5. I know it feels weird because you haven't developed any of your pieces, but b4, that pawn c5 is very important. So she plays it because your idea of knight c6 and winning the c5 pawn, I think, is more important than, say, this e5 pawn. Because after knight c6, I play queen a4. And if you're going to win my e5 pawn, then we trade queens. And I'm not unhappy at all to trade queens in a position I'm up a couple pawns, or maybe it'll only be 1 pawn. But look at the queen side pawn mass for white. So many extra pawns on that side of the board.
No, definitely. I think that's a really good thing that you're saying, that in this position, white wants to exchange the queens and wants to exchange pieces as white is up a couple of pawns here. So black needs to keep their pieces. Wait, can you take on a6 now? I see a pawn hanging. I'm not sure if you want to take it, but I see a pawn hanging.
It's funny because I was noticing that the pawn can be captured, but I was like, nah, no way. And then I was like, oh, Anna, she's a principal player. She's not going to say bishop takes a6. And there you are saying bishop takes a6. And I think you can get away with it. It is very risky because after bishop takes a6, there might be knight c7. And
I was just looking at bishop. I'm not sure. No, not bishop. I was looking first at bishop b5, rook d1, stuff like that. Can you play rook d1? Or can you not play rook d1?
She's thinking about it. I mean, it's such a big moment. So what Anna and I are looking at is bishop takes a6, knight c7, like rook d1 distract. I mean, that actually looks pretty fascinating. Rook d1 there. I don't know.
I mean, it looks good, but I'm really not sure if it works. Now she's playing a4. I mean, maybe it's a good practical decision if she doesn't really see the exact continuation there.
And she wants to play bishop b5. So if she gets a free move, bishop b5 is what she'll play. So that's a threat. The rook on a8 is not protected. So that was the real point of a4. And so I think black should move her queen. So that way, like queen c8, for example, protects the rook on a8. She was queen b7, probably a better version of queen c8 because the queen's a little more active here. But what do you do now, Anna?
Now I'm just saying queen b7. I guess she's also protecting. Yeah, just like you said, she's protecting the a6 pawn now. I guess that her knight is going to get out soon. I guess her bishop has to get out soon. And Vaishali's, she needs to get her pieces moving. So I'm not sure. Maybe something like, okay, knight d2. Yeah, knight d2. Going to c4, I guess. Or e4.
Is bishop d8 just about to trap this queen? Okay, now don't play bishop d8 because there's knight d6 check. But I'm worried about bishop d8 coming.
Robert, there's a knight on e4.
Yes, but I'm not happy about it because my queen's on a5.
That's true. That's true. I just wanted to say the positive about this position, that the knight was on e4.
Your optimism is very much appreciated. And there is a knight on e4, and it can't be kicked out so easily. But then I look, there's a queen on a5, there's a king on f2. I think that this is honestly going to be Ushanina's game. It feels like the type of position that's about to collapse for white, even though she currently is up 2 pawns. Her pieces are all out of sorts.
Yeah, no, I really agree with you. The queen on a5 is really not having a good time there, I don't feel like. It really doesn't have any squares to go to, though. I mean, it's quite scary.
Yeah, and I would play bishop h4 check, and she was queen c6, which is also a decent move, but bishop h4 already poses a very difficult question of where the white king goes. If you go to c2, I mean, e2, then take out c3 with check, and I'm sort of winning your pawns and hurting your king some more. So bishop h4 is coming in the near future.
So even though we can see that white is a couple of pawns, that black's pieces are really just working much better and being much more active than white's pieces. And the king also, the white king is really not safe there on f2, just like you said. So the material here is not it's not so important for white, the extra pawns.
And she plays bishop takes a6, giving up a piece because it frees the b5 square for her queen. So in fact, she's going to play queen b5 now. And if you trade queens on b5 and a takes b5 happens, black might just lose in a couple moves because these pawns are so fast. But Ushinina is not going to trade queens on b5. Definitely not. It wouldn't make sense. I think she should play bishop h4 check at some point soon. She's going to play this move, and then she's going to bring her queen into the attack.
And that's when it's going to get very scary.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just... So, the c3 pawn's also hanging. Can I just steal that pawn too?
Yeah, the c3 pawn has been hanging for a long time.
I've ignored it. I just like, yeah, that's not important to the position. But if I could take c3, the next pawn that will be in trouble is the b4 pawn. So you can probably get away with stealing that one there. She was
well,
rook a7.
Bishop, we're waiting for bishop h4. But maybe she is
no more bishop h4.
No more bishop h4.
She takes it away, but f6 is also good. She's opening up the rook on f8 to hit this pawn f3. The queen on a8, all across the diagonal, is staring at that pawn. Well, this is not an easy position. It's not easy for either side.
Sorry?
I'm saying it's not easy for either side at this point.
No, it really isn't. It really isn't. But it feels like, I don't know, the white king just feels so unsafe, although I guess that now white wants to put some pressure on the black king too. But is it... No, I was going to say, what do you want to do here, by the way? Let's see. What's the threat?
I think I would take on e5 because I really want to get my pieces active, and I see queen takes e6, knight f7 check. I'm not going to get smothered checkmated, but what I am going to do is win your queen. So here she does it. If queen takes e6, king h8, knight f7 check looks like a great move, but this rook on a7 actually protects this f7 square through the bishop on e7. So just to show that really quickly, takes, king h8, knight f7, rook f7, queen f7, this bishop h4 check, and the rook on a7 now wins the queen on f7. So the f7 square is defended tactically, is the essential point.
Wow, well, there we would have the bishop h4 again, the one we thought wasn't going to come back.
At long last, there will be bishop h4.
No, she'll probably not fall for this, Vaishali.
No, she definitely won't. But bishop h4 will happen anyway, I think.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And the f3 pawn is looking very vulnerable now.
Yep. The rook, the queen staring down. Okay, there has to be a tactic here.
There has to be a tactic, but yeah, she has a minute as well. There has to be a tactic now. What's the tactic?
Rook takes f3 check. If king takes f3, you just move the knight to c7 or to f4, and you win the queen.
Yeah, the queen you win.
So she plays bishop h4. And now she's probably playing knight f4. Wait, but knight f4, there's queen g4. So it's like not over yet. It feels it's really close. She takes on c3 instead.
Okay, I did not think she was going to take there now, but maybe it's just good.
She has knight f4 coming. Uh-oh.
That's the trick.
And Anna Ushinina pre-moved knight f4. I saw it. It was like 0.1 seconds for that move. Now she's up a rook and she's attacking. So
and she's gonna take on f3 now with the rook, yeah?
Yeah. She essentially punished Vaishali's very risky opening where she stole a bunch of pawns, but her king was left in the center. And we talk about this a lot, right? King safety is paramount in a blitz game, and Ushinina showed exactly why. Still some chances.
Oh, right? She's a whole rook up now.
I like that move b5. You have to play a move like that. Wait a second. The pawns are going. Look at the evaluation. It's changing. b6.
The pawns are going.
She could have started with b6. I think that was a little more precise, but still, b6, b7, a7. These pawns are pushing, and black only has 20 seconds to figure this out. This is a tough position.
No, this is not easy practically at all. When you have 3 pawns against your rook there, this is not easy at all to play against.
So she plays rook b4. Wait, but if rook a8, can you just play b7? No, your rook takes b7. You're not in time. Rook takes b7, saves the day.
Because it's with check.
So with check, the rook comes to b1, and after c6, there's bishop d8, stopping the second pawn. Here it is, and that's it.
Yeah.
Now you can just win the c6 pawn. So e4. Oh, what?
What?
Oh my gosh! She gave away the rook on d5.
Did she blunder it?
She definitely blundered that. Oh my gosh, she gave away a full rook there. And white
What?
queen's first. Oh, and
No.
queen c5 allows the queen. Oh my gosh,
What?
she queen c3 check. But she went
No,
queen c.
she.
Oh my
No, it's
gosh.
winning again.
Yeah, now black's winning again. This is what happens in a time scramble. These mistakes happen. And I mean, credit to both players for not
Do you
giving
think
us.
she mouse flipped the queen to c5 instead of c?
I think so. I think so. And
Oh
is this
wow.
game? It feels like it should be winning for black. Queen d5 or queen f5. There's nowhere for the king of queen f7 and then queen f8.
Yeah, and
Oh,
it's
queen
over.
f4 wins the queen. That's even better. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. That
That was
game was.
completely unexpected. Everything that happened there.
Yeah, first the rook went to d5 where it could just be captured. And I understand why she did. She wanted to cut off the king, or she mouse flipped and wanted to go rook c5. I'm not sure which one. Then after that, Vaishali was up a queen and could have stopped the pawns from promotion, but instead she dropped her queen on c5. And maybe it was a mouse slip. Maybe she was trying to drag it back to c3 and she just like let it go too soon.
Yeah, but there's so many mouse slips there. In 5 seconds, there were so many mouse slips there. But this is what happens. This is what happens a lot of times in online chess when there is little time left. It's a very common thing, and it's part of it. So
I wish I had the words to explain exactly why these things happen, and I feel for both players there because first Ushanina, she did very well to get a winning advantage, and then she blundered. Then for Vaishali, she has her chance. She knows she's winning in a very simplified position, and then she doesn't drop her queen in the right square. So I feel for both of them. I think that Ushanina deserves at least 1 point of the first two games based on how she's played. So I
yeah.
can't really sympathize too much for Vaishali, but at 1-1, it does feel like Ushanina has been calling the shots in the first two games. So she's had a better position in both games. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think Vaishali's been playing really well.
She has. And she's a tenacious defender.
Definitely. Definitely. And this just shows that you should never give up. I mean, she kept pushing her pawns there when she was a rook down. She kept pushing her pawns. And it's easy to make a practical mistake.
It certainly is. We've seen that many times in all events, no matter the time control. So the longer you fight, the more chances you give yourself. Here, we have a position where there's a white pass pawn on b5. So the pawn structure is not symmetrical. And if you take on c4 here, and the knight takes on c4, black's pawn on c5 is not the best pawn in the world. It's not the worst pawn in the world either, but it's not the best piece. And white's pawn on b5 is very nicely situated there. It's passed. It can't be attacked very easily. So I certainly prefer white's position here.
I also stopped some movement for the bishop on b7. So it's a very well placed pawn there on b5.
And now taking on f3 doesn't make sense because in the other position, we liked how it opened up white's king. Here, after bishop takes f3, g takes f3, this b pawn becomes even stronger. You removed one of your blockading pieces. So
yeah, now I'm liking white's position a lot. It feels like the pieces are much more centralized. Rook is going to go to d1 at some point, I guess. And it's looking quite good. And the bishop and the queen are both looking at f7 some point maybe. So it's looking good.
Yeah, knight e5. Your moves come very naturally for white here. Knight e5. There we go. Knight e5 hits f7, so she goes d6. And rook d1. How can you complain about these moves? Just so
you really can't. They just come naturally. It's what you want to play, and you're allowed to play it. So
it's the best possible situation. I think now I would play f3 because I just feel like playing f3 e4 makes black's pieces feel quite useless. And she plays f3.
Of course she does.
Oh, and
I'm telling you, Robert. I'm telling you.
I have moments. There are moments where I suggest very bad moves, and then there are times where I get into the zone and have a feel for the position a little bit. So knight to d5, that's a good choice because you need some activity. I've had games where I feel like I can't do anything. Every single move has some downside to it. So you just have to go for something active, even if objectively your position is still bad. There are more practical chances the more active you. Oh,
you're absolutely right. I really agree with you. But now the knight is going back to f6.
Yeah, probably not what she intended initially. She probably intended some knight b4 and knight f4, but there were likely issues with those squares as well. I mean, knight to d7, I guess, was a really annoying threat if the knight went on f6.
No, but you're definitely right. I mean, you need to play actively. Otherwise, it's so difficult to play. And there are some players that really know what to do when they have nothing to do, basically. But it's difficult to know what to do in those positions. I really agree with you. And I think it's good to see some active play here in these games, especially with the little time.
So what would you do for Vaishali? Would you play like h5? I don't know where you get activity in a position like this because white has a more advanced pawn on the queen side, whereas black's pawn is blockaded by the bishop on c4. So like, how do you continue here? Maybe h5 is a little risky because then there's some knight sacrifices you have to consider. But I'm just trying to
Yeah.
figure out the next couple moves for black.
Yeah. No, it's a question. I'm also thinking for white, I'm seeing queen a1 at some point, which could look quite good. Both to take the a file, but especially to go for that diagonal to put some pressure on the a1 h8 diagonal there. So, but okay, yeah.
No, your idea is
Now we see
perfect.
queen.
She brings the queen to a1. And maybe queen a1 first was better. Actually, I think I like that a little more. An e5. Now, that's a big commitment here. And I think it's a good move, but that's a really committal decision. You've opened up the bishop on c4 to the f7 square. The e5 pawn requires defense. But I think black is going to play queen d6, queen d4. That's her intention now.
And she wants to get a pass pawn for herself on the d4.
Yeah, two can
Yeah,
play this game, is what she's saying.
yeah. Well, maybe that's a way to try to hold it for black, because white is better in this position, I
And
guess.
in certain end games, right? If this queen, the queen's go off the board, then black can play knight to b6 at some point, and maybe that c5 pawn, the one that I was criticizing, maybe it can become quite a strong pawn in the end game.
Yeah. No, I guess that you would take with the e pawn if you could exchange on d4. Is that correct? To try to have two pass pawns, or would you take with the c pawn?
I'm greedy, so two pass pawns seems
Yeah.
good to me, but that also gives white a second pass pawn, right? If you take on d4, we just imagine this everybody in our heads, then from the e file to the h file, white has an extra pawn. Whereas if you take with the c pawn, it still leaves white with this good outside pass pawn on b5, but that's only one of them. So it's a tough decision. I will let Vaishali choose. I don't know. I think she will take with the e pawn, but something worries me about that because the knight will have to stay protecting the c5 square anyway.
Hmm.
So I feel like taking on d4 with the c pawn allows black's knight to be more free.
And I have a question, Robert. What's the bishop on b7 doing? What's the fate of that bishop?
You ask a tough question. I don't have an answer for it. The bishop is just sitting there comfortably, not under attack. It's like just hanging out on the couch. It doesn't need to be part of the party right now, but it can join later. So
That's true.
It's
That's true. And
enjoying
it's
the movies
stopping the
and
pawn.
snacks. Yeah, it's enjoying the movies and the snacks. Ooh, bishop d5 now. I can't calculate quickly enough about all the trades here, but bishop d5 trying to force some of the pieces off. King d3 also is good. If you take on c4, in comes my king. So this bishop on b7, Anna, you're right to criticize it. And there's f5 for that very reason.
Yeah. No, I mean the bishop has to do something. The king has to do something too. White's king is so active. It's really just joining the movies and the snacks immediately, the white king. The black king wants to do that too.
Yeah. Well, the white king is just like becoming the life of the party now. And after bishop d5, if you take with the bishop, and the white takes, okay, she drops the bishop back. I think that's a good move because if you took on d5, you're actually losing all of your blockades. So you need to keep this pawn on b5 stuck in its place. Knight c6, probably a good move. And now, f4 is what's tempting me. I'm just trying to create a new pass pawn and get this d4 pawn. She plays it.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, of course, but I've said it too many times. So
I heard you start and then like, I'm not going to give him any more credit. He doesn't deserve it. But this kind of endgame, I think that Ushinina's shown very good technique for the most part here. Her king is so active here. Don't take with the king on e4 because then bishop f5 check stuff, the d pawn would run. So she's giving up her f pawn to take on d4, and in comes the king to c5.
Yeah. And it's all under control. The king is getting to c5. The b pawn is going to push soon. Maybe there could be some knight a7 in the right moment to get the bishop out of there too. So it seems that b pawn seems very dangerous.
Wait, knight a7 is kind of a brilliant idea because the bishop and the knight for black can't share the d7 square. So I'm not sure right now or in the near future, but knight a7 is like a surprisingly annoying move.
Yeah. No, I'm not sure when it's gonna be played, but okay, the knight is going that way.
And now king d6, but then knight f7 check. So the thing is, because they're pawns on both sides of the board, this knight is going to be, well, I was saying a nightmare, but I didn't want to actually make the pawn, but it's going to be very frustrating for black. Doesn't hang the h7 pawn?
It seems to do so.
That just looks like a free pawn?
Yeah, and she's gonna take it.
Drop the bishop right back to e4, but maybe too many trades are a bad thing. Is that sort of the claim that Vaishali is making here? But you can just take on e4 here. Something about this felt wrong.
At the same time, the pawns, yeah, that's true, actually, that's true. Maybe this is easier to hold now for black.
There is the threat of the fork, so king to d4. Is she going knight e3? Like, is she going to attack the king set pawns with the knight and then chase down the b pawn with the king? But that feels just everything somehow feels like it's a little bit too slow here.
Yeah, feels dangerous to move the black to move the knight down, but she's doing it, and it might. I'm not sure. It looks very dangerous. King c5 now, or do you play first b6? Maybe.
Yeah, b6, king d6, knight c4 check. I think that's a winning king pawn in the game. So I think knight c4 just wins on the spot because the black king is going to be distracted by the b pawn, and the white king will just come right around here back and win. Because if you play g3, there's knight f5 check, and then you take on g3, like things like that, and then black's not going to lose that game.
Yeah. Well, there seems to be quite a lot of calculation though in this. And Vaishali has 6 seconds left, so very, very little time. Oh, she's getting into the pawn endgame.
Yeah, she's just going to bring the king right back, and then the h pawn is going to queen eventually.
Yeah.
So this is important. It's going to be instructive. After king b6, you need to make sure. Well, actually, the black king's already too far away. I was going to say you can just jump your king up to g7 to blockade the enemy king, but h4 is already too fast for the other king. She's calculating that right now. Very instructive moment. She's calculating to make sure the king is on time. It's not in time. She gets a queen and wins.
And it's 2-1 for Shenina. 2-1 now.
And she's playing great. Oh, wait, that was the last game of the 5 minutes. I wasn't even looking at the time. Can you?
I know, Robert. It's always like that. It's always like that. Time just flies. Time just flies, and my door just opened.
Well, that means it is time for a break for us. The players get a little bit of rest. They will return shortly. And when we come back, we will have the 3-minute plus 1 second increment of the SpeedChess.com Women's Speed Chess Championship Grand Prix. So stay tuned, everybody. We'll be back in a few. And we return here with Anna Ushanina securing a 1 point lead after the 5 minute portion of this event. Reminder, there'll be 30 minutes of 3 minute plus 1 second increment coming up. Anna, we saw a comeback yesterday with Valentina Gunina outscoring Ju Wenjun down the stretch. There were some internet connectivity issues there. But what do you think Vaishali's chances are like to come back? It is only a 1 game deficit.
I think that she's gonna come back. I have the feeling, and I know also from what we heard yesterday, when she was just saying, that she doesn't take it too hard when she loses a game. She just focuses on the chess and she just tries to play her best. And she seemed very sure about that when she told us in the interviews. I don't think that she feels like there's been a major setback because she's 1 point down. I don't think so. So I think she's gonna be able to come back. And yeah, and I mean, no, yeah, I really think she's gonna be able to come back. What do you think?
You know what I would have done in my break if I were her? I would have been like, go over to her brother's room, be like, come on, Pragnananda, give me some advice. What's going wrong here? I feel like I'm not getting the positions I'd want. And that's true no matter if one of your trainers is your brother or if it's a phone call away. I would like to just get some quick advice. How can I improve my chances? And here she's playing for a King's Indian attack. Slower approach generally, but White's moves are very easy in the King's Indian. So, I mean, I think it's a good opening choice. We'll see how it goes. But Anna Ushanina is so consistent. The pawn structure, B7 to D5, over to F7. She likes these solid, compact positions. So, Anna, how is Vaishali going to do this?
How is Vaishali going to do this? No, that's a good question. Well, she's now trying to open up with C4. She's trying to break the center just to eliminate that big pawn structure that you were saying there, the little triangle that we have there. So she's starting by playing C4. I thought that typically the knight went to C3 when you play C4, but I guess a knight D2 is just another way to do it. So nothing weird about that.
This just gives White the option of if D takes C4, you can take it back with a knight, so you don't have to keep the symmetrical pawn structure. But you're right, there are many lines where the knight comes to C3, and it's more active on C3 because you look at this bishop on C1, you're like, wait, the knight's in the way, so she plays B3. She'll play bishop b2. She'll go double fianchetto over here. But I think Black has a pretty ideal setup in terms of pawn structure. But in terms of piece placement, Black tries to struggles a bit to figure out what next. Right? Where's this knight f6 going? Where's the knight d7? Bishop e7? Where are those pieces going? Or are they completely acceptable where they are?
Yeah, and now I guess that b3 was played. She's trying to fianchetto her bishop on the a1 h8 diagonal, which looks good. The bishop is active there. That's the rook a2. That's very interesting.
Queen a1 coming.
Yep. I really like that maneuver. I've seen it a lot of times. I really like it. I think it's equally awesome every single time I see it. It just looks so good.
Well, it's funny because it looks so bad in a way because the rook on a2. But then you're like, wait a second, the knight on f6 is frozen in place, and Black can't play e5 because you've taken away the square. So despite the rook looking a little iffy over there, you can always move your bishop out the way and then free up the rook. But I am with you. I think these sort of ideas are a new player would not see this rook a2 queen a1. Like, what is that? What is rook a2? Like, didn't my coach always tell me play in the center? But for those of us, who have been a long time players who've studied, they're like, okay, I've seen this before. I've never known when to do it myself. But bringing the queen along with the bishop is very powerful here because you're on the board's longest diagonal.
Absolutely. I was sort of thinking when you said it that way, that looks so bad that it's good. It's sort of like when you say a joke that is just so bad. It's such a bad joke, but it becomes funny anyway, and you start laughing about it. So I sort of thought about that. But definitely no. And there's a double purpose. I mean, I've seen this some other times as well when the rook not only goes to a2, but goes to a3 sometimes when the rook is free on that file. And then the rook can go to the king side maybe. Go to f3 or go to g3, not in this position, of course, but there are several times when you try to do a rook lift there and you activate the rook quite quickly, which is very interesting.
Agreed. And when I see a rook on a2 like this, queen on a1, I want to open up the a file somehow, but then I would have to play rook to b1, pawn to b4. She plays in the center, makes sense with e4. And this knight on f6 still can't move because behind it is this pawn on g7. So with that in mind, Anna Ushanina, she's actually down on the clock. I think it's the first time we've seen her down on time, except when they have just seconds remaining.
Yeah, Only 10 seconds, but still down on time, definitely. Well, I'm liking this for white. Are you liking this for white too?
Yes, because rook d1, rook d2 is coming. The g7 pawn's under attack. It looks like white just has control over the board. You just look at it. Black has no space. And it's frustrating. Bishop f8 is a good move, but here comes rook d1 and then rook to d2, for instance. I
And the
would have a
rook on
hard time
h2
playing
is
this.
just such a good piece now, or it's going to become a very good piece very soon.
It will. The one thing that you have to be careful about is the bishop hitting the a3 pawn, the queen coming to b6 to put pressure on b3. That's something that is bothering me a little bit here. So you have to time this right, because rook d1, queen b6, I can't get my rook to d2 so easily, so she plays queen c3 first, so that she can play rook to d2. But then the a3 pawn. So this is the problem. White is a little bit stuck here, a little bit.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's true. They always say queen b6. Yeah, that's the problem. When you have this b3, a3 pawns, a lot of times the pawns can become weak here. So white is going to have to find a way to defend. But okay, bishop d4. And now I guess if c5, then the bishop on g2 would become very strong.
Right. And I was going to say, if white plays c5 to stop the bishop, and she does it, I was thinking that black can play e5 now, gain a little bit of space, kick the bishop back to e3, but white still has a spatial advantage on the queen side. So I think e5 is a practical choice. There it is. And white up 15 seconds. That's actually going to play an important role in this game.
Yeah. Rook d8, taking that d file there. Is it now? No, of course. No, it's not the time she's going to play rook d2, but then take maybe rook d8 again.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's she plays f3. She's freeing up her bishop to go f1 to c4. The bishop on g6. Now it's trying to go f6, bishop f7. So both players improving their bishops. Okay, we see this maneuver.
Oh, we're getting into bullet mode. We're getting very low in time. They're almost equal time, 26, 29 seconds.
But Ushanina has played the last moves instantly, and now she's ahead in the clock. King f2. This also gives g4, h4, g5 as an option. I guess she's going to trade queens, go king e2, but I don't think black has slightly less space because the pawn at c5 is such a thorn, but I would not mind having this endgame from black's point of view. You have the d file under your control.
Yeah. No, the d file is very special. I mean, consider rook on a2 never really got to the d file. It was going to get there, but it never really got there on time.
You know why? It's because it's going to go to the a file now.
Exactly. And that's not a bad thing.
The rook on a2 this whole time knew what it was doing. And now let's see, how do you make progress? Rook a7, for instance. Okay, b5 followed by c6 is a threat. So b5 can be played, not anymore. b5, you just take it. So I play h4. You should play on both sides of the board.
G5 as well. b5.
Oh wait, b5 takes c6 still works. So you bishop c5 check.
Ah, there's the check. There's the check.
That was a beautiful tactic. In 7 seconds for black, she makes a move. Rook a8 check. Okay. And do you play b6 here? Or do you... She has rook b8, but now can you take on b5? Though still c6. So she goes king f7. Okay,
now b6.
Black can't move. Black is frozen here. So rook c7 at some moment. We got to get the right moment. But rook c7 is going to happen. So g4. She doesn't.
And can you play it? No, you cannot play it. No, yeah, of course, bishop d8. Okay.
4 seconds.
Oh, there's so long time.
And she brings the rook back around. Maybe rook a1 was better. That way, okay, that I don't like that. So now h5 or e takes, and then just get outside pass pawn. Okay, king e4 also makes sense. So king e4.
Yeah, activating the king. Now it's just going back with the rook.
And here comes rook c8, rook c7.
Bishop d, no.
What, rook g? I was going to say rook h8, but the blundered the rook. So I'm glad that she didn't play that. Bishop h8, bishop h6, bishop f8, bishop d6 was possible there. Take on no, but the problem here is you go bishop f2 or bishop c3, whatever. This bishop e7, so you can't attack e5 twice while protecting c5.
Yeah, and do you want to take on e5 and get that f pass pawn, or is it too dangerous as the b6 pawn also becomes vulnerable?
She's going for it, I think. King e6.
Going for it.
No. This can't win. Just take on d4 and king f7. I think king e6 was winning there. This is not. Oh, king f6.
What? Oh,
king f6.
Did she have king f6?
She had it. And now she's going here, but the c pawn queens very quickly. So c4, king wherever, c3, you queen at the same time, and then black will win this pawn.
There's gonna be a check.
Oh gosh, these games get so crazy. Queen f3
Yeah.
check.
And it's still crazy. It's still crazy. Anything can happen here. With a little time, anything can happen.
Yeah, it does seem like there's enough checks to. Here we are, trade queens. Oh, or not.
I guess maybe she just wants to make sure that.
Yeah. She doesn't blunder in time trouble, but this is just too many checks. If you ever block with the queen, we trade queens, and the f6 pawn falls. You okay?
Yeah, that was a big wasp.
Oh my god! I was like, I didn't know what was happening. I thought you were singing for a second,
No,
and
that was a big wasp there.
oh my gosh!
Oh,
I was worried about you, and then I thought you were just getting operatic, and then I wasn't sure what was happening. So, is the wasp gone?
yeah, the wasp is gone. It was a huge one. It was a huge one. The wasp and the spiders in this box, they really want to be part of the commentary too.
I guess that's what happens when you commentate from a wooden shed. But we move on to this game, 2.5, 1/2 in Anna Ushanina's favor. H5 by Vaishali. Okay, I can't tell if this was an aggressive move or just making sure her bishop wouldn't get trapped in F5. But either way, that is an interesting choice.
It has some potential though for maybe becoming H4. Now we know. She's going for it. She's going for it immediately. Move 10, H5, H4.
I don't think I like it. I think it's not. You're not going to get an attack if you play H3. White will play G4 and trap your bishop on F5. So you can't even do problem. That. And this pawn H4, it's fine, but it can become a weakness in many positions. It makes it hard to cast kingside. So Queen C7, F4 is played. F4 immediately. You don't have to ask it twice.
Yeah, it's black. I guess black is going to castle queenside. Yeah, of course.
Yes. Well, now you can't because F7. But knight F3 was played, and now knight G4. What's going on here? I don't even know how to evaluate this position.
I have no idea either. H3 maybe just? I mean, where does she want to take on E5? I guess that's what she wants.
She had 4 pieces attacking it, so she's in time to. So she takes first and then plays H3. Do you take on F3 here? I think I would do that. She can play bishop H5, bishop F5. She can retreat if she wants. She can also take on F3. And the reason why I'm suggesting that is the light square bishop doesn't really have much play right now. F5 for black. Okay, knight F6, similar concept. I don't want to allow this bishop to get free. I don't want to allow E4 to happen.
Yeah. Oh, what an interesting game.
For sure.
Really? Okay, so now rook C1. I guess if long castle, there's going to be some pressure on D5 there. As the king and the rook would be on the same file. Queen E7. Do you think that the king is just going to stay on E8? Or on E7 or something? Or do you think she'll castle? Maybe she's going to castle short side now.
She can take on A3? That's my question. Because she lined up her queen and her bishop on A3, and now queen E3 ignored that.
That's true. Shanina completely ignored that.
And considering the match, go for it. Yeah, considering the match situation, I definitely would take there. You're down a point. You're gonna need to score at some point. You're not out of it, and it's a free pawn. It's gonna give white some compensation. The black king still's in the center, but she does take it. I don't see the risk. We talked about this yesterday, right? When compensation is a vague concept. And where is white's compensation? Well, I have a bishop against a knight. Okay, so what? The black king is in the center, and white's king is castled and safe. So what? I don't see like the full 100% compensation, which makes me believe that this was a good decision.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I think that A3 pawn, even though it completely went, unnoticed for Shanina, I think that, as you're saying, where's the exact compensation? That's what we were talking about yesterday. And it's a term that's always been so vague in a lot of places by coaches and books. It's always been a very vague term. So always difficult to know what exactly it means practically in a game.
And queen A5, you don't want to get your queen trapped. So B4, I get it. You want to play B5. What if I just play queen? She was queen C7. If you play B5, great. You're down a pawn. Like you want to take out C6, good for you. She castles kingside, the h4 pawn, which is one that we will be worried about at some point. For now, it's hard to get to. Black can consider playing e5 to break open the center. I just don't see white having sufficient compensation for this pawn. And a5 now.
And look at the a pawn. The a
Yep.
pawn can become strong at some point.
Rook to b8, rook f to b8 here. You can also play rook a7 and bring the other rook to a8 if you really want to protect that pawn a million times. But I just like rook f to b8 here.
Yeah, taking that file there. Maybe you can play rook b4 at some point as well after rook f8 if you want to.
Yeah, definitely. And white can't play e4. The bishop on f3 is not looking useful. What's it doing? A lot of nothing. And so
what's nothing?
The best that white is going to try for is rook a1, queen c3, go after this pawn, and that's why Vaishali went e5 is to create a second potential target. Now, the rook on a4 will hit all the way to this pawn on h4, but with this queen on e5, you won't be able to take on h4 because your rook on a1 is hanging. So tactically, this will work out for her for the time being, and practically, this, she's giving her opponent a backward pawn on a not really a backward pawn, but a base pawn on a dark square, which means that white can't protect it and black can attack it.
Absolutely. Now she's putting some pressure on e5, so she's going back with the knight. Vaishali is going back with the knight to d7. And also putting a bit of pressure on c5 if e5 is taken at some point.
There's also
so do you think that she's gonna stay with the pawns there, or do you think that something is gonna happen in the center? How do you think that the pawns in the center are gonna be moving?
Well, I was gonna say rook takes a5, maybe losing on the spot because she plays e4, which is a good move. But rook takes a5, there was back rank ideas. I just want to show one really quickly. Rook a5, yeah. Rook takes, queen takes. There's like rook b1 check ideas where your rook can't take me on b1, and then I'll go trade queens with e4, and you go off your f2 pawn. So things like that were available, and so that's why I think we saw e4 played, and now mass exchanges in the center, but this pawn on c5 is on the dark square. So that's going to be vulnerable. But the pawn c6 as well is one that's weak.
Yeah. Well, that a5 pawn, the king on g1 is having a bit of trouble now that the pawn is on h4. So did you like this h5, h4 idea of Vaishali, or do you think that the pawn will soon just be taken?
Well, I just looked at the clock. 15 seconds now for both players, bishop e2. The h4 pawn, I think, is a weakness. Yeah, you're right. Just something that's going to permanently be there. So it's going to be lost. So give it up. Queen e7, not so easily. c5 is under attack. 10 seconds. All right. Down goes a5.
Now she's taking.
And where's the queen go? Queen e3, queen f4 played.
Are there no tactics here?
I'm looking for them. Rook d5, that looks like a good move.
Yeah.
The knight on e5 is better than the bishop. I like that move too. Rook d2 comes to your queen. So rook d4, go for tactics. Rook d4. It will scare your opponent.
Yeah, it takes a knight f3.
Oh, she hung her queen and she didn't take it. She hung her queen on c4. Oh, and she's going for the knight f3. Knight f3! She made it work. Oh my gosh.
And now it's working.
Oh my gosh, that game, like, honestly, I'm getting heart palpitations just watching this. Like, oh my gosh. Anna, I don't know what to say.
3 moves in a row. The queen was just hanging.
I don't know what to say.
No, do you think she had pre-moved that, or what do you think?
I think that they were just both really nervous playing bullet down the stretch there. And so they were both blundering and not finding their opponent's blunder. So I think Vaishali did play better. She coordinated her rooks. Her knight was in the center. And so I think she played really well in that game. I think that was by far her best game from start to finish. Well, actually her last 2 games. So in the 3 minutes, she's been playing better. But Anna, at some point, these hanging queens will, you have to pay the full price. And that was the first time Anna Ushanina did. Actually, the second time. She also lost earlier in the match. So the blunders are hurting Ushanina here.
And they're making the match very, very, very close. 2.5 right now. We got 11 more minutes of 3+1, and then we're going to move on to the bullet. Imagine if it was tied for the bullet. And they had a very, very close bullet rating as well. So it's going to be very exciting, these last few games.
I don't know if either of us can handle that, if it's tied going into the bullet.
I think we can handle it, but I'm not sure hearts can. Robert, I'm worried about us.
I mean, I saw the queen hang on c4. I was like, oh, and then it wasn't captured. It's like, no. It's like every single time there's a strong visceral reaction. And we're not being critical of the players. We make these exact mistakes ourselves all the time.
Absolutely.
You put us in bullet games and we blunder our queens. We miss the fact that queens are hanging. It's what happens. It's kind of, in many ways, the point of a speed chess format. But I need to take a breath here. I need to calm down. And, well, I don't know. We can calm down because this position is incredibly closed.
Yeah.
I don't even know what white is going to do to try to play for a win. Just h4, black will play h5. All these pawns on light squares limit the scope of the bishop. So it seems like black is extremely solid.
Yeah. My question is, because typically one would say that rooks and bishops work better together, right? And that queens and knights work better together. But in this position, I mean, the knight on d5 is quite strong there because if at some point c4 is played, then the rook then the d4 pawn would become very weak.
Right.
So, and the b4 square as well, like you're showing. So, seems to be a very, very close position here.
Yeah, and it's just the case with knights against bishops. Knight can go to a dark square, and a light square bishop can never attack it. So that's why this pawn chain on b2 to d4 is so important. But now the rook went to e2, there's some c5 ideas.
Yeah, c5 definitely at some point. Do you think immediately? Maybe now immediately, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a pin down the d file. So now black has another move. So you don't have to take on d4 just yet. You can keep the tension for a moment. And she takes right away. I was wondering if there was a useful move. Maybe there wasn't. And now a very important question is what pieces do you want to see traded? For white, I think I'd play rook takes d4, and she does it. I don't want to be left with an isolated pawn and rooks attacking it. So now you've removed the aggressive pieces that would attack the square, and so you're left with a knight against a bishop. So I think this is the right choice. King e4 now, king d6. We know exactly what the players are aiming for here. King f4. Maybe there's king g5, king f6 if we run your king away. So
can you play f6 now then for black, just to stop king g5 from being played?
You can, and then I'm somewhat worried eventually about the threat of bishop c2, but for now it's not a big deal. I was actually going to ask you, would you prefer to have white or black in the same game?
I think I would prefer to have. I think I would prefer to have white here, but it's just because I like the bishops. At the same time, I just feel like the white king is quite active there. There are some weak dark squares, but the knight is also having control of them. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I would be happy with either position, I think.
And she started with bishop c4, maybe going bishop b5 next. The problem with this, anytime your bishop moves to a new diagonal, you give up certain squares. So if your bishop goes to b5, you may attack the knight, but you give the d5 square back under black's control. And if you play bishop f1, bishop g2, that's actually something that can be considered here to go on the longest diagonal, or bishop e2, bishop f3 kind of thing. It's a little slow, especially with knight on f6 coming to d5. But, she's going g4.
Wow. I also really like the b4 square though for the knight at some point maybe, because then the knight can enter perhaps c2, d3 if the bishop is not there, of course. So, but right now I guess it's very far away from the action.
Yeah, because knight d5 I can probably take it. Here's just g4.
Precisely, yeah.
Oh, this actually might just be winning it at this point for white. It's a very simple plan. g4, try to break the h pawn through. Oh, this is really bad for black.
Yeah. So subtle.
Yeah, Vaishali evened the score, and she's immediately looking to pounce for a second consecutive victory. It's not going to be the easiest position to win, but you can just start pushing this pawn. h5, we see a trade. The king has to start coming back to f8, then I go h6, and black is quite stuck. And the h pawn is a decoy more than anything. I'm going to force your pieces towards my pawn, and then I'm going to bring my king somehow back over to the queen side, start attacking you. So that's what this h pawn is useful for.
Yeah. And the king is going to have some trouble. The black king is going to have some trouble getting into the game and defending stuff. Because as you said, the black king is going to have to be defending that or stopping the h pawn from promoting. But knight f8, so maybe it's the knight that's going to be the saver now.
So knight h7, check. Yeah. Can force the king, but the king wants to go king h6, king g7, but there's king f6. So she starts with d5, which Looks to me to be another good move. If you go e5, I might even have d6 check because your pawn on f7 is now under attack. So I like the move d5, and black has 25 seconds left. How do you even play here?
Do you take or do you go e5? She took on h5. I was going to ask if you take on d5 or if you push e5, but then that gives you another passed pawn on d, which is very scary.
Yeah, but h6 followed by bishop e4 looks extremely problematic.
It looks very problematic.
And
Play
king f5?
Yeah. Now she's going to have to do something to stop. Oh, okay.
Bishop e4,
Knight f6.
Bishop f3. Stopping knight g4, so you can go king e5. You just don't want to allow any knight forks, so she's gaining time. King e5, no knight g4. That was important. So that's why her bishop's on this diagonal. She has Zugzwang. The knight moves king d5 and into c6.
And she's going to lose this pawn in b6, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't
play king c6.
Oh, though. She's going to take the king.
Yeah, don't play king c6. You have to watch out for knight forks as long as you bishop c2. And the bishop is so much stronger than the knight in this endgame where there are pawns on both sides of the board, right? Because the knight takes a longer time to journey, whereas the bishop covers the length of the whole diagonal from the other side. Okay, so king c6, wait, what? Knight c5? It's going to be...
What?
Uh-oh.
What's happening here? Can't play bishop g8? Yeah, but now she's losing that pawn.
Yeah, take it. And then knight c5. Bishop e8, good move. Whoa. I don't know what that was. It sounded like fireworks.
Now king c6 is the threat?
Yep. There it is. Taking the pawn and also winning on the clock. Wow. That was a well-played endgame by Vaishali. I think Ushanina felt comfortable, and she maybe felt too comfortable in that endgame. Because the start, should not have been winning for white, but white was the one with the pawn breaks with more plans and creating an outside pass pawn.
Yeah, absolutely. That pass pawn just felt like it came out of nowhere. But it was such a nice plan, f3, g4, and then h5. And then that h pawn was just pushing. So absolutely. We were just saying, what color would we pick? And yeah, she just, Vaishali just proves us if the white color was better there in that endgame.
The power of the bishop. You said you like bishops?
Power of the bishop, yeah.
It showed its ability to outclass a knight just by moving from side to side of the board much more easily, naturally. And here, queen b6. So Vaishali is up a point in the match, and she plays this line where she can trade queens on b3, but she goes queen a6 instead. This is smart. You're putting pressure on e2, but that's not what it's about because the b7 pawn needs defense. You're trying to play b6 and break down white's pawn structure. So b6, I think, is going to be played here.
She's going back. Well, queen. So what does the queen exactly do on a6, Robert? I mean, you said he was defending b7, of course, but what exactly is the plan of having the queen on a6 so early on in the game?
Nothing really. She didn't want to trade queens because then the a pawn would have taken on b3 to open up the rook's file. So she's just trying to chisel at white's pawn structure. She can bring the rook over to b8. She can then eventually take on c5 at the right moment, and I think these positions are actually quite easy for black to play. Maybe queen b7 now, and then a5. Your whole plan is geared towards breaking open the queen side. That's what you need to know, and you just need to time it correctly. Easier said than done, of course.
And you try to put some pressure on c6 because that's sometimes the idea, right? To play some, but now it's difficult. I was gonna say to play some rook c1, stuff like that. But obviously, the pawn on a2 is hanging here, so the queen on a6 is actually putting a bit of pressure there. But I guess if rook takes a2. The queen is not very active. I'm not sure. But, okay, the knight is going back. Is e4 an idea at some point?
At some point. If you can make e4 work, you're very happy. But she takes on c5, and you're not getting e4.
That's the problem.
And so e4 is what you want. What if I just move my rook out? Like rook to b7, rook to b8. Then you're
just going to double rooks there on the b file?
I have an open file.
That's true. Knight e5.
Yeah. So she's trading off her knight because the side that has like less, she probably wants to take control over certain squares. I was going to say that white has some less space here. And by taking the knight away from d2, white also has less control over certain squares. And I think you can actually play e5 to go after the c5 pawn. That's going to be an idea in the near future. And white is trying to play e4, so we'll see a clash in the center at long last.
Yeah. Do you think that e4 can be played now immediately? I think that e4 maybe could be played here now.
She delays.
Okay,
I think you could have
bishop
played e4 though. You're right. It is a bit risky if you think that this rook's coming to d8 and then e5 at some point will undermine the pawn. But e4 feels like white's active choice, and there's e5 anyway by black. So if you don't play e4 ever, you're just lacking space. But now she'll play bishop h3 maybe. This bishop stinks. I don't like this bishop on g2.
No, the bishop on g2 with the pawn on f3, it feels like a bishop that is a bit stuck there. Doesn't really know what to do. So bishop on h3 seems like a very good move. And the knight doesn't have too many places either to go to.
Well, now it's just going to trade off. So
yeah,
you
gonna be a big
right.
trade there.
the knight didn't have anywhere to go, but now it was forced essentially to trade on c5. And look at this pawn structure. Black has these two pawns on c6 and d5. White has this doubled e pawn, which can be good. If you can get f4, f5 and go for an attack, that pawn e5 will be very useful. But until you get that, it's probably more of a potential liability.
Yep. Yeah. What, Robert? If you could pick a side here, you asked me in the endgame. Who do you prefer? Who do you prefer in this position?
Definitely black, because I looked down the b file and I looked at full control over here. So rook b7, rook b8. But from a bullet point of view, and I think queen e3 is an excellent move because of what I was about to say, that f4, f5 does kind of scare me for the black king. So queen e3 just says, let's trade queens. Now you have to. Your e3 pawn is under attack. And I think black has a much easier time now without there's no risk in this position, at least not that I see.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Do you think maybe bishop f1 can be played at some point? Just to eliminate that bishop? Okay, rook d1 first.
Well, you probably should eliminate this bishop because now the bishop is attacking your a2 pawn. And rook b8.
Look at that b file for the rook, though. That seems amazing for black.
It's too simple almost. Right? Like, it's just too simple.
It's just too simple. And it's going to stay simple. And she has more time. This just feels like a very comfortable position to play for black. And white is going to have to defend sort of everything.
Good luck defending that a2 pawn.
Yep.
So bishop f1, okay, that yeah, I was going to say that did it. I didn't realize, but you just take it with the rook.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going up a pawn in an endgame. So do you play bishop b3 here or bishop c4?
Well, she took and rook a1. So
rook b3. Wow.
Oh, wow.
Oh, now just take on d4 and play rook to b2 check.
Yeah. It just looks, look at that rook on the second file. That just feels really good for black. The king is going to be completely cut off there. Or I guess king e3. The king is going to go up.
So if I go a5 and just like keep pushing my pawn.
Yeah. This feels like the other game of Vaishali when she just had the h pawn, which was pushing. Now she has that a pawn.
Yeah, this pawn is so fast. Rook c. Oh, nice job though, because the h7 square is under white's control. So rook c6 will threaten mate on c8. And actually, how do you have to play rook b6 here? I think she plays g5, giving up this pawn.
She doesn't care about the pawn.
Because she wins the h pawn and protects h6.
Bishop b3.
I think f4, f5. For white, you have to get your pawns rolling.
Yeah, and then try to get a maybe e6 at some point. Try to get your e pawn, get a past e pawn there.
Oh wait, this is actually rook a8 and f6 mate. Rook a8 was his mate. Oh my gosh, it was checkmate.
Oh wow, it's checkmate.
And watch out, king h3 only moves. King h4, there's rook h2 mate. So
yeah.
It's no longer mate because you have the h6 square for your king. Bishop g4 check. The king goes to h4.
But how do you defend it now, the mate?
Oh my gosh. That's how, I guess. But you can just take on f5 and take on a4. Now white is up a pawn and just...
Yeah. Oh, that completely turned. But she had a checkmate there, Janina. But once again, so difficult to see with the little time. But this just looks completely... She has too many pawns.
It's a roller coaster. This is what this match is. It's a roller coaster.
Yeah,
wait,
definitely.
Take on e6? No, don't take that one. That's the wrong pawn. I think she can take on e6.
Where's the rook
So
gonna
wait,
go?
rook h7, rook h7, rook h7. You take it, and then d6, d7 was winning. Oh my gosh, this is such a fun little endgame here. But now this is also good. You just bring a rook back to d1. So you can Zugzwang rook d1, rook d2. No. You want your rook. No, it's draw by repetition.
What? Was it repetition?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, the
No.
time is up. The time is up. It looks like I wasn't even noticing that the time is up, so this game is going to be canceled. Let us go over this before we go to break. There are many
Yeah, we
moments
have
in
to
this
do
game.
that.
Okay, we're going to have to show there is a checkmate by force here. And right here on move 38 after rook g2, rook a8 check, no matter where this king goes, king g7 or king h7, there is checkmate with pawn f6 because the bishop covers the remaining squares, the king is in check, the rook covers the back rank. That's checkmate. So that was step number one. And I understand missing that because rook g2, it immediately puts your pawn in threat. You make a quick move instead, which she did. She went king f4 and very quickly. She's playing in a bullet mindset. And here Vaishali avoided the checkmate, is still losing. And after e6, she could have taken on e6. She took on f6 instead. And e7 was a mistake. And this is where I was thinking rook h7. The point is that the rook h7, you take, I have d6. My next move is d7. You'll at best win one of my pawns, but you will not win both. And then my other pawn becomes a queen. So
that's such a pretty move, rook h7, Robert. That's such a pretty move.
Yeah, and the thing is d6 doesn't work right away because the king is too close to the pawns. My king will take on e7. So I'm distracting your king in the process and then just trying to push my d pawn. So I just was thinking in advance, like, how do I distract the king? And that's what I was looking for. So that's what allowed me to find it. But instead, we saw rook f2 play, takes, and this is winning. And she knew it was winning, but she wanted this king to be on g6 now with black's turn. Because if it's black's turn, either you go king h6 and I take your pawn with check, or you go king elsewhere and I take your pawn for free. So she went rook to g5, rook back, rook d4. What she should do here is make a waiting move, rook to d1. And after king g6, now play rook to d5 and black's in Zugzwang. Because if you move your rook back, in comes my pawn up a step. If your king moves to h6, I take on h5 with check. If your king moves elsewhere, as I was saying, king takes the pawn h5, and I steal a second pawn. Anna, that was craziness.
Absolutely crazy. Once again, these games are full of surprises, and that's the fun of this. That's the fun of this. So we're going to be up for some very exciting games now in the bullet. It's going to be 1+1 right after the break. It's going to be very exciting. So don't go anywhere. We'll be here very soon.
And we will have the bullet section of this match, 1+1 second time control coming up next. But just a reminder that after that, right after it, will be Alexander Kostanyev taking on Valentina Gunina. So first, we'll have the bullet portion of Vaishali and Ushanina. And there will be a whole other match after this, the other semifinal, to determine who plays the winner of this one. Anna, I'm so excited. I just don't even know what to say.
No, I'm completely speechless, just like you. I mean, I'm speechless even before this is starting. I thought we were going to be speechless after, but I'm speechless before because I know how exciting this is going to be.
Well, we can't both be speechless. We are commentators. We need to talk, right? We can't be silent here, can we?
That's true. That's true. Robert, we're not speechless. Let's do this. Let's do this. The games are starting. 1+1.
All right. Well, we have to go full bullet mode on everybody here. And we see that it's a Caro-Kann, Ushanina's beloved opening from the black side, an advanced Caro-Kann where the e5 pawn takes up space and black will eventually try to play c5. But okay. I mean, Anna, we see Vaishali's up a point heading into the bullet here. Do you think she's going to hold on to her lead?
I think so. I think that she's feeling confident. She has one more point. I think it's going to be very close, though. And I know Shanina, I do think that she's going to be able to do a comeback. But I don't know. I really don't know who's going to be the winner here. I think it's going to be a very close match. And Ushanina, she's been very consistent with her openings. She's playing once again the Caro-Kann here now. So she seems to know what she's doing with her different openings.
Agreed. And good decision, I think, by Ushanina to take on b2, because from a practical point of view, we talked about this compensation, a pawn, and how do you evaluate this? I think that white certainly does have compensation in a position like this. The king is on e8, white has more space, but you've stolen the b2 pawn, now you've taken c4, and Vaishali is going into the think tank. I think she should take on g6, she does that. Now h5 is going to be hanging in the future. This knight, c knight can come to e4, my favorite square, and the d6 square is available as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you typically, no, you don't, oh yeah, there was a knight there. F6.
That's a brave move.
Take.
That was a really brave move. I think just move your bishop back to e3.
Yeah. Wow.
Maybe, I'm wondering if you could sack on f6 somehow, but probably not. Rook b1 played first.
Rook b1 first intermediate. b7 is hanging too. a2 is hanging too. A bunch of pawns hanging. Now back to e3. And, well, I guess that... Oh, long castle.
Rook a1. Here comes rook takes a7. You just castle into an attack, but she's trying to trade queens. I don't think the attack ends, though.
She's not taking on a7. Why is she not taking on a7?
She wants to keep the queens on. Rook f to b1. I mean, there is the huge potential of an attack on the queen side.
There definitely is, especially in bullet. Absolutely. Oh. That knight. Wow.
Wait, knight takes h4. The queen was actually
there's another pawn, yeah. So many pawns.
So she takes. Now, f3 played. Good move, queen to d3. So it's up so much material now. How many pawns? 4? Is it 4 pawns? I lost count.
Wait, I'm counting. Yeah, it's 4 pawns. It's 7 versus 3. That's 4 pawns.
Just don't blunder.
Wow, that's
Wait,
so
rook
many
takes a6.
pawns.
Rook a6. You can't take it.
There we have it.
Oh gosh, what do you do here? Rook c7 gives your king some space, but rook a8 check.
Can you play rook d1 intermediate? No.
She plays it now. Queen a2 or queen c2. Queen c2 hits c4. Queen e2, same idea. It pins e5 but attacks c4. Wait, queen takes c4, rook d5. Wow, well spotted. And I don't even see a move. Queen takes g2's mate.
It's mate in 1. Oh wow.
The thing is, the knight was protecting that mate for so long, you kind of forgot about its purpose. And it's a bullet game. Mistakes happen. When pieces are flying all over the place in time trouble, you just totally think, oh, knight e2, I'm protecting my bishop on f4, but you forget that g2 was hanging behind it.
Yeah. So easy to just go with your plan, but forget that your opponent has some threats too. So absolutely. But this is what happens to bullet. And that's what I'm saying. This is going to be a very close match, I think. And Ushanina is already back. It's 4-4 right now. So now we see an h5 from Vaishali once again. Of course.
I think it's good for a bullet game to play like this, but something about it feels very strategically risky. And you have the triangle set up. So if you just ask me to look at this position, I would say, oh, Ushanina must be black here because she loves this setup, because we've seen her play many times. But g5, oh, here comes g4.
Here comes G. Yep. Now we have this 95. This looks a bit similar to the other game we saw before, when they played with the knight on e5 and h5.
This
But now we have g4 here.
It's just straightforward. The thing is, you can just take back on e4 now. She does with the bishop. And f3 is a very good move because you want to take on g4 with your f pawn, not open up the h file. So f3 is very smart. I think that you can you sacrifice a piece, but gh3, I'm not sure. Like gh3, queen g5, you hit e3, you hit g2, everything's under attack.
It looks dangerous, for sure. But she's taking an f3 instead.
Yeah, not my pieces. Easier for me to sacrifice them. I always say that. Oh, f7 hanging. I would take that thing,
Yeah.
but the knight is going to try to get active. So trade on f7 now, or play rook e8.
Look at that e6 pawn. Oh, queen. Whoa, queen g5, e6.
E6 is a good move.
E6 seemed like a good move.
This rook on h8 is hanging. So rook h to g8, there's e takes d7 with check. So she has to give up the exchange here. The good news is, though, that white's king isn't entirely safe either. And this knight can jump in from b6 to c4. I think that b5 is a good move, just trying to weaken black's king. And now the d5 pawn is also weak.
She's going to put some pressure on e3 here, a4. But she's so down on time now, 15 seconds. It's quite a lot in bullet.
She's down on time. She's down on the position. Here, rook to d1, hit the d5 pawn.
Now another pawn is hanging.
Yeah. Finally, I think rook d1 will be played. So has e4, also good. Queen f5 check.
Knight. Okay. Others check.
Yeah. The knight wants to hop around, and knights are tricky in time trouble. But the knight, queen e6. I'd play that move pretty quickly.
Yeah. If takes, then the knight was hanging, of course.
And so queen d8 only move to avoid queen to d6, d7, and then queen e8. All right, d7, and then queen takes g8 is also.
Yeah. And there's going to be this rook e8 check.
Take it and mate.
Yeah.
And Vaishali has 3 minutes and 25 seconds left. So honestly, now that she's down a point in the match, if I'm doing my math correctly, if she's down a point, she needs to make sure that if a game concludes or the result is clear. Okay, I don't know what this evaluation bar is doing. It's like jumping up to infinity.
No, but you're right. I mean, this is gonna be a crucial game. If Vaishali loses this one, then it's probably over. Should be over then, probably. So 2 games or 2 points difference is a lot here now when there's just 2 minutes 50 left. Very short time left.
And so that's the thing is, if she's 2 minutes and 40 seconds left, just about. If she thinks the position is a draw, she should just try to make it a draw, right? Like you cannot prolong the games. You will still have one more game after it. So you have to be constantly looking over your shoulder. Wait, 2.5 minutes now. That's how much time is left. I like White's position in this game, but if things start getting closed and you can force a repetition, you may have to force that repetition rather than trying to play for more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. Because then you might have time for one more game. So she should not be too afraid as long as the game finishes quickly if it's a draw here now.
Okay, e4. This is starting to look really good for White. You have the bishop pair. Your pawns are no longer double. The bishops are starting to open up against the enemy king. So I would castle queenside. Just go for it. Castle queenside. Yeah. Get your pieces. Knight f3, knight g5 later, maybe e5. I'm not sure if I want to take on d5 or play e5. So she's spending too much time here, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. 27 seconds. I like castle queenside too. Putting that rook on the d file as well. I like that. Take. The e6 pawn is hanging. Is she gonna take her now on d5? No, she's gonna play rook e1. Put some pressure on e6, of course.
And only a minute and a half left. So this is exactly what I was nervous about. So here's a good example. Do you just make a draw so you have one more game? Or do you think that you're better with White so you keep it going? I mean, White is slightly better, but it's kind of, what's your expected value? Are you actually going to win this game? And if not, maybe you should try to liquidate. Bishop e1, that couldn't have been a good move. c4, okay, bishop trying to come to c3.
Bishop c3.
Rook d4 for black.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. And this is going to take up probably all the remaining time as the more I look at the clock.
This is going to be a must-win for Vaishali if she wants to catch up there.
And this is not the way to win a game. Bishop f2. You have to go f5, g4, play like that. This feels
Yeah.
like it's too accommodating.
Yeah. Now this looks very tough for winning. In fact, feels like black is almost better here now
Black
with
is
that
better.
D pawn. Yeah.
Can you go knight b2? Okay, I thought knight b2 was also possible, trying to go d2, d1, but maybe it didn't work out. And I would just allow a draw. 20 seconds. So you actually can just get rook versus rook and then just play forever, right? No, this is over.
Absolutely. 15 seconds left. This is unless some magic happens here, unless a miracle happens, this is just gonna be a draw. But who knows? We've seen surprises all the time, so who knows what will happen.
Yeah, but now it's an extra pawn and a clear extra pawn for black,
Yeah.
and no pieces remaining, right? Oh my
That's
god,
the
wait, don't
problem.
play
The pawn's
b5
moving
because
up.
bishop c5. That was one of those moments, so she gets the pawn back. Okay.
Well,
She gets
bishop
the pawn
versus
back.
knight here, equal pawns.
You need a more active king, though, and black's king is the active one, and the pawns are in light squares.
Yeah, black's king is so active.
So knight e4. You do a bishop h4 just to protect it. Now knight c5 is fine.
3 seconds for Vaishali.
Like king b4, king f4. So what's going on? King a5. This is actually getting a bit dangerous. I don't like the look of this because the knight is a really bad piece of getting back. So b4, b5, knight c5 check. I mean, you're gonna have to put the knight there.
Yep.
Oh gosh.
Go up.
b6, bishop f2, knight d7, b7, king c6. So king. Oh my gosh, I could see a zook swung happening here.
Oh wow.
But you can just move the king. The problem is the white king can't get back, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh wow. Well, what a turn it took anyway.
Nice try.
But yeah, now it's just a draw.
It's a draw, and with that, it looks like Anna Ushinina wins the match. She wins it by the closest of margins, 1 point victory for her. So let's go. The other match is getting underway between Gunina and Kostenyuk. So let's move on over to that game.
Let's go and do that. Already starting.
Wow, that was a close match, and I got to give a shout out to Vaishali. Her event is over, but Ushinina, she was down a point heading into the bullet. She mounted the comeback. Congratulations to Anna Ushinina. She'll be playing on Sunday against the winner of this match that we see here that is just getting underway between Gunina and Kostenyuk.
Yep. Big congrats to her. And just like you said, such a close match. Let's see what happens in this one versus Alexandra Kostenyuk and Valentina Gunina. I'm very excited to see this match. And Valentina Gunina, she won yesterday versus Ju and June. So yeah, she started out losing many games. Ju and June was winning 3-0, but then after a series of events, she was able to get some points and then come back, as Ju and June lost her internet connection in the beginning. But we'll see. It's going to be very exciting to see if it goes Gunina's way today or not.
And Kostenyuk's only lost 3 games the entire event. In 2 matches, she lost 3 games total. 3 points, I should say, have been taken off her. She won 11-0 and then 7-3. So she's in great form. She has the white pieces in this first game here. Gunina played a Caro-Kann, very solid. We talked about that in the Ushinina match. And this knight on d5. The bishop on g2 at least is over here rather than on c4 because that allows you to play for c4, maybe an eventual d5 a little more easily. But Anna, we keep seeing the Caro-Kann. It's so solid. I mean, it's hard to break.
It's so solid. I want to start playing it too. I've never played it, but this match is just giving me inspiration to do it. Do you play the Caro-Kann, Robert?
I played it once. It didn't go very well, so I don't want to talk about it. But no, I'm not a Caro-Kann player. I feel like it gives up too much control over the board, and I love playing against the Caro-Kann from the white side. So it would be hard for me to play from the black side. But the more I see it, especially in blitz chess, the more I like it. It really does.
Maybe it's good for blitz chess.
Yeah, because the plans are actually pretty natural, and there are no targets that are immediately exploitable. So I think it is good. H5 here, I'd play for Gunina.
Yeah, is it to stop G4 or
G4 will be hard to play because of bishop H4, but I just it feels like I'm actually the one pushing for more space. But
yeah,
if you ever take on f5, I take with my g pawn. I'm not unhappy about that. So b5 is an option. h5 is an option. She plays h5 first.
Yep. And there we see h5 getting some space, just like you said. I'm liking this for black.
Me too. And Gunina is a very aggressive player. So if she has the opportunity to play h5 without any repercussions, she's going to do so. And
yep. Well, and what's white's plan here? That's what we have to find here now too, because it feels like black has a lot of space. But how does white? What does white do here? I mean, there's not really any c4. The d4 pawn would be very weak, so the pawn needs to stay on c3. Rook d2. Maybe you're going to try to find a file here.
oh, yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, rook to e2 looks weird because the pawn on f7 defends e6 so well. So
where's this rook gonna go?
Nowhere. So I'd play b5.
Yep, that's Oh, maybe are you gonna try to? Can you play maybe rook e2 and try to take on f5 at some point? If you take with the g pawn, the h5 pawn becomes weak. But I guess it's just very easy defendable to just like queen d7 or something. Yeah, rook e2. There we have it.
She does it, but yeah, the pawn on h5. It's not that big a deal. I can play rook h8 or even king g6 sometimes. I do have to be careful though, because if you take on f5 and g takes f5, there may be some kind of g4 breaking everything open. So I know I have to look out for that. And here maybe d5 is also possible.
Yeah, d5. Well, there we see the break. There we see the break with the 2 rooks on the e file. Looking at that e8 rook.
I have to admit, I underestimated these kind of ideas. You know, the pinning the e6 pawn is actually quite frustrating to deal with.
This is actually, it feels like white is starting to get some control of the game here now. That e6 pawn is going to become weak, feels like.
It certainly is weak. So I'm thinking about b4. I don't know. I haven't calculated all the tactics. Like b4, d takes e6, b takes e3, craziness. It looks scary because the white's stealing a pawn near black's king. So another move is maybe rook to b6 just to defend this pawn e6 another time. But I am starting to like white's position. She plays queen d7 for the same purpose.
Yeah. Do you think that Valentina Grina also underestimated all of these ideas?
I think she did, yeah. It seemed like black was so solid, but then when you play b5 and take with the c6 pawn, you don't think d5 will ever happen because you have that square so well under your control, but then you lose the threat of it, and then white is able to push it through. And now look at the open d file. The e6 pawn is weak.
I was wondering before if bishop b3 was possible. When the double rooks were there, how did you defend that pawn on e1? Or sorry, on e6, sorry.
No, bishop.
That's what I was wondering.
Bishop b3 looked like a good move. I'll just show that real quick. That here, bishop b3, it just hits this pawn on e6. I was just wondering how you can
defend that.
You can't. So bishop b3 was a good move.
Yeah. Oh, rook d1 taking that d file.
And she plays it now. And, well, it's just going right after. But now you have rook b6. So at the very least, black can bring this rook up. The queen was on f2 before, and that was not possible. Now the queen's back on e1, you can play rook to b6 and defend it.
Exactly. So that's probably... Oh, no, she's not caring about that.
I think she's going to care in a second.
Yeah, I think she will too. I think she will care very soon.
Yeah, because now you're king on g7, right? Rook e6, bishop e6, then comes rook to d7, right? I have all these threats. So queen a7 played. If you take twice on e8, you get checkmate on f2. So that's why there's some trickiness here.
Yeah, so you cannot take twice. So what do you do instead then?
King g2 comes to mind just to avoid any kind of queen landing on f2. Also g5.
And there's also some, if there's any check, there's bishop d5 as well.
Right. So. And I think g5 actually is very powerful because if you ever take me on e6, I take with my bishop and I threaten rook d7 check. So she plays bishop e3, which makes sense. You're hitting the queen on a7 and stopping any kind of queen f2. Actually, this is probably a very strong practical move.
Can you take now on e6? Take and then take on a7 and take the queen just to exchange some stuff? Oh, but then I guess you'll lose some. You'll lose an. No, I'm not sure.
No, you're right there. Rook e6 was possible. It just would have landed an endgame where white was up a pawn and doing well. Rook takes f6, by the way, now works because if king f6 is bishop d4 checkmate. Because my bishops and queen do everything.
Oh, that king on f6 is not looking good.
No, it certainly is not. She played bishop f2. She retreats. Still a good move. But, rook takes f6, I think, was a free piece.
You know what I just saw, Robert? I just saw that everything in Alexandra's background is like chess themed. She has like a chessboard there.
Yeah,
I thought it was, yeah.
That's pretty cool. She's she streams often. She does commentary regularly. So she knows how to have the cool back. I kind of want that same exact background. So maybe I'll have to ask her where she got it.
It looks really cool. Well, rook d7 check. And you cannot take the bishop because the queen is hanging, but there's g5.
That looks like rook h7 check. Then queen e5. Ooh, gosh, that hurts.
That hurts.
Win for Kostyanyuk.
Yep.
Wow. So
and she's got her coffee there too.
She goes up 1-0. We'll see. Gunina came back yesterday against Ju and Jun, aided a bit by, Ju and Jun's internet connectivity issues, but she's more than capable of bouncing back on her own without any sort of internet off the board stuff. So, what does she need to do, Anna? What does Gunina need to do to take down a player like Alexandra Kostyanyuk?
Well, I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult also because Kostyanyuk, she feels like a player she's very confident and it can be a bit intimidating maybe to play against her. So I think that I think that Gunina just has to be very strong and just once again, just like I said before, just not feel like it's over. There are many games to go. This is just the first game, 5+1. We typically see 10 or 11 games in total. 1 out of 10 games is not a lot. So definitely, it doesn't matter. She maybe just has to think back to yesterday when she was able to take down Ju and Jun at the end and make a big comeback there. So that's what I think she has to do. She just needs to remain confident and not be scared.
For sure. And Gunina and Kostyanyuk have played each other many, many times. They're compatriots, they're teammates on the Russian national team. So they probably trained together. They played against one another so many times. They're used to each other. Let's put it that way. And here from the white side, Gunina goes for your sort of typical London type of setup. It's from a Queen's Indian, but bishop back on h2. You have 2 pawns advance on your 4th rank. None of Black's pieces past her own 3rd rank. So White has more space thus far.
Absolutely. And this is the typical breakthrough with e5 for Black. That's what you typically play in this type of Queen's Indian positions. So now there's a rook on d1, taking that d file and pinning the knight.
I like the other rook to d1 instead. And the reason why is if Black plays queen e7, I want to play knight to d5. And then once we trade on d5, my pawn gets to d5, and I have an open c file. But if my other rook were on d1 and my other rook was on a1, then I play rook c1 to pile up pressure. So I actually would have preferred rook f d1, even though it's moving sort of away from the center. You typically see rook e1, rook d1, but not in such a closed position. Actually, we see knight d5 now, and my point will be made demonstrably here.
Absolutely. I think so too. I guess that when the rook is on, as you said before, when the rook stays on f, it's because you want to play f4 at some point or you want to play rook e1. But right now it feels like there's not a lot of purpose for that rook on f1. So
I guess it's not going to matter so much just because of the way this has gone. It's like White's going to play knight e4, try to get knight to d6, double rooks in the d file. So it may not play a role considering what Kostyanyuk chose from the Black side of things. But it's a good thing to note, just where do your rooks belong? And the rook on f1 isn't exactly doing much, but she's going to play f4 now. Now that I criticize the rook, she's playing f4. That's what's about to happen. Of course. Of course.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if the rook stays on f1, it's got to be because she wants to play f4. Or she's not playing f4, Robert. It feels like rook d2, rook d1, yeah? She's going to do that instead.
I feel misled. That's a risky move. f5 was a risky move. In fact, she could have played rook d1 first. Let's go back a half step here. Rook to d1 hits this knight on d7 and actually would have been a very good move. So she moved the knight. It was very reactionary. And when when your piece is under attack by pawn, you move it almost always. But sometimes you can actually make an in-between move that's useful for you. White's position is still great. I love White's position here. but you should always be on the lookout for a c5. Good move here.
Yeah, absolutely. Just making sure that bishop does not get any play.
And now you
And
get
that's
these.
typically, sorry?
No, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that's typically in the King's Indian, in the Queen's Indian. The bishop on c8 typically is the very bad piece of the position. That's why in a lot of King's Indians you try to play bishop g4 very soon as black to exchange that bishop. So now we can see once again an example of when that bishop becomes quite inactive in a position.
And this is a great Gunina game. I know I threw a lot of G's in there, but G4 was played because if you can get your knight the E4 square, no. I know I like the E4 square, but here in particular, it would be devastating for black. And now the pawn F5 is under attack. If you play bishop to C8, trying to defend this pawn, right, you're getting more passive. And after bishop C8, I would even consider bishop F3 to pile pressure on the C6 pawn. You have so many weaknesses in this position that I think white is in excellent shape.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I'm really liking this for white as well. It feels like a Gunina game. So I don't think that she's sad about losing that first game. I think she's ready for a comeback and she's playing very well. Such a nice move to play g4 here when with all of these weak light square pawns, the pawn on f5.
This is excellent stuff. It's a really instructive game. It's one that I'm probably actually going to come back to at some point and think about because there are times when you know your position should be good, but you're not quite sure how to break through. And then you have to find moves like G4, which are hard for most people to play because they're resistant to pushing pawns in front of their king. But it's working out. Bishop F3 here puts this pawn C6 under attack.
Hmm. No, and this just shows how important it was for white to play c5 and not allow black to play c5 and get an amazing bishop on b7. So absolutely. Now this feels really good. It feels like all of white's pieces are in their perfect square, apart from that light square bishop, which is probably going to go to f3 soon. So it feels like they're all in really good squares now.
Yeah, and a big issue for black is this queen on c7, right? You want to play e4 to take up space, but then this bishop on h2 stares at the black queen. So bishop f3, there it's played. Now I'm attacking c6. e4, she went bishop g2 very quickly, but I was looking, was there some sort of discovery? There's a queen on c7 under attack. If the rook moves, probably not a good one because rook g6, I move my queen away, and then your rook on g6 will be under attack and your bishop on f3. So she simply retreats, then brings her knight to e2. Her knight can come to d4. It can come to f4. Boy, knight d4 here just hits
Wow,
e6.
this feels so good. So many squares for that knight. The knight on e2 is going to be a monster very soon.
It's positional dominance at this point. It's just black is reacting to white's moves, and white every single turn is coming up with a new threat. Here, knight g3 or knight d4 hits the bishop on f5. The e4 pawn is a weak one.
And now those dark squares in front of the king could become weak at some point now that she's exchanging her dark square bishop, which is typically black's good bishop in this position.
So she takes with her more advanced rook, which leads me to believe that perhaps there's some bishop d6 ideas. She removed the rook from the square, but she also bring her rook right back. Rook to d6 is possible if she wants to. She doesn't need to. There's no rush. Black doesn't have a threat here.
So, do you think she should have taken with the other rook on d1?
Probably. It looks to me a little more natural, but this also, she can just bring this rook back at any moment to d6. You're never going to capture on d6 and allow me to take with my c pawn. So I think there's no rush no matter what. And if I'm Kostyaniuk, I'm trying desperately to figure out how to get some initiative. Maybe knight e6, hitting c5, hitting the rook on d4, and then next g5 to go after the h3 pawn. It probably doesn't amount to anything in particular, but it's your best chance.
Yeah. Well, now she's back with that with rook d6, and the e4 pawn is maybe or no, I guess it's not hanging. It's the c5 pawn is also hanging, but you have to look at it a little bit. That e4 pawn.
And she plays knight g5. But now the question is, can you take on c6 and give up h3, or should you react to this pawn being under attack on h3? I think rook c6 is a fine move. I have no problems there. You're also studying rook c7 after you have taken it.
Yeah, and rook c7, that's such a nice move. Maybe you could even play queen c3 at some point and really start pressuring those dark squares in front of the king.
And she played rook c8 to avoid rook c7. She was afraid of that idea. So now we see a trade. And can I just play c6, c7, and push this pawn, try to promote it?
Well,
I'm ignoring the king side, but that's because I have a passed pawn.
yeah, no, that pass pawn could become dangerous. Is she going to go for that b5 pawn? Oh, but she gave her c pawn now.
And I missed the c pawn. I felt like that was good, but she could like queen e5 here, I guess.
Yeah, I miss that c pawn too, though. I felt like maybe she could have started pushing it before she did this, but
yeah, queen e5. There may be rook c5 back, or knight f3 check is possible to get to opposite colored bishops. But opposite colored bishops positions in certain endgames have drawish tendencies. But in with queens on the board, it favors the side with more attacking chances. And I already like the look of this queen on e5. If you could bring this bishop to d4, oh gosh, that would be a checkmating attack very quickly. So rook e8 played.
that would be amazing. Can you play some bishop h4?
Ooh, pinning the knight. I'd have to play knight f3 check, I think, after bishop h4.
Knight f3 check. Yes, of course.
Just because the knight is pinned, but it can still move. So knight f3 first.
And I guess you don't want to exchange that dark square bishop just in case you can get some activity there and take some diagonals. But that bishop, as you said, it really wants to be on the other diagonal.
It does. It's hard to get there. But also what's important to note is white's king is surprisingly safe because you need to get your queen to g2 with checkmate. How do you do that? You have to go all the way into f1 somehow. It's going to take forever. And by the time you get that done, the black king will be in trouble. So the pawn h6 is under threat. Now f3 can be captured. Now no more checkmating nets. Queen f5. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. This is a big uh-oh. Yeah, you're absolutely... Ooh, why did she not take?
I think she just was moving quickly and didn't scout out the fact the pawn was under attack. Again, this pawn can be captured. She's going for the a pawn. Is rook takes a4 a winning endgame? Not worth even considering it, right? Just push the pawn now.
Yeah. And she's very low on time, so there's not too much time to think about it. But taking on h6 before maybe was something. But okay, the black king is very very unsafe there. It's completely cut off. So bishop g7?
Yeah, but h4, this makes sense. If g4, the king comes in. No, this is actually very good play here by Gunina. e4, protecting f2. Now bring the king in. King g5, king f6. Uh-oh.
It feels like mating attack.
Oh, but rook f7 falls to rook f4 check. She blundered a pawn, but she...
Whoa!
No, but the pawn's rook a8 and a7. Here comes a7. And rook anywhere. Here comes the queen. Rook. Hold up. You gotta be a little precise here. Bishop d4, maybe?
Yep. Bishop d4. Now she sees bishop d4. Bishop goes back.
This is not so easy anymore because the rook and the bishop cover the square. Okay, what's happening? It's a full bullet game at this point.
Yeah.
King g7. I would bring this king.
How do you do this?
Rook h7. Just threaten rook h6 check.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm not saying it's winning, but it. Oh.
On the time goes.
Oh, she just lost some time there.
Yeah. Tough position, though. Tough position.
Yeah, she was worried about losing her h5 pawn. The check on h6. The a pawn was so far advanced there. Hard to figure everything out with the waning seconds.
1-1 now. So we'll see. Maybe this will become a very close match, too. That would be very exciting if this became a close match, just like the other one.
And Gunina, she switched to an Alyekin defense from the Caro-Kann. So there must be something she doesn't want to see happen again in the Caro-Kann. But in general, the Alyekin's defense is seen as kind of being good for white. You have these pawns in the center. They're not opposed by enemy pawns. So even though it's a symmetrical pawn structure, which gives a tendency, if pieces get traded, it will likely be relatively level. In the interim, with so many pieces on the board, white has more space.
Yeah. No, and that's one of the things here. We can see that white already has quite a lot of space with c5. Yeah. Do you now play b4, or do you just you play b4? Try to hold that.
And I like this move c6 because I didn't want white to play knight to d5 and take away the bishop. So c6 holds everything together, and we may see black play even d5 and knight to e6, and then just unleash the pieces. So that's a pretty natural plan for black to develop.
Yeah. No, of course, black wants to unleash their pieces at some point. I like that term, Robert. Unleash your pieces. I like that.
Well, I'll store that one in the memory bank, and maybe you can co-opt it, use it as your own. Because just look at the bishop on e7.
Thank you for giving me permission.
The bishop on e7, the knight on f8, the rook on e8, the queen—they're all stepping on each other's toes, and that's what happens when you have less space. And so b5 was a move to break open the position, and I don't mind it, but I think black should play knight e4. Maybe not right this second, but knight e4, trade some of the pieces. When you have less space, your pieces are stepping on each other's toes. Once the knight is out of f6, in comes my bishop to f6. When my bishop goes to f6, my queen is e7. So she's doing a fine job with knight e6, hitting c5. But just in general, you want to think about how piece trades help or hurt you. Here, they most often help black because it gives the remainder of the pieces some extra breathing room.
Absolutely. Now the question is, do you defend the pawn on c5? Do you play rook d1? Do you what do you do here? Do you take on c6? It's a bunch of questions here. What do you think? Or do you just play knight h4 to defend, maybe?
Yeah, I like knight h4. I don't know how to defend this pawn on c5, which is actually quite worrisome, and which is why Gunina's b5, Kosteniuk's b5 may have been too soon, because c5 is really hard to defend. She plays knight to e5, but I think you can just take on c5 if you want it with the bishop. Seems reasonable.
Yeah, can you just take? She's going back.
Also a good move, hitting the knight on e5, protecting c6. c5 is still under attack. No, this is good for black.
No, yeah, this definitely feels good for black.
And it goes to show that how quickly you can be punished for being super aggressive and then not taking care of your pawns. Because the pawn on c5 was well defended by this pawn on b4. But as soon as you push b5, I get it. You wanted to open up space. Your queen's on b3. You're going for an initiative of sorts. But now your c5 pawn is extremely unhappy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so what do you do now? What do you do now?
I ask you, hey, Anna,
ask me.
What should what do now?
Well. If you cannot defend the pawn on c4, she's taking on f7.
Whoa. Okay. See, I assumed that didn't work. I probably should have done more to be like, wait a second, let's look into this. But I feel like it shouldn't work out, but maybe it will because it's a blitz game. So king f7, you have to, I think.
Yeah. No, yeah. If you're gonna go into this, I guess that you just need to take on f7.
And then she's gonna play g4, and then like bishop c4. Oh, it's getting sharp. I don't think
it's getting very sharp. That's actually a very interesting idea. G4 and bishop c4.
I don't think
the question is how to defend it after. There's some queen c8 maybe, but
you're getting all passive, and you need to, but it doesn't feel the best. But I think Kosteniuk sort of she stumbled into it. She did not intend to sacrifice the knight on f7. It just so happened that in the position it was going to be bad either, like if she just kept the piece on the board. So instead she sacks, and after here, bishop f8, queen e5, I don't like the look of that. You do not want to be defending your knight with your queen like this. Bishop d4 comes to mind. Actually, after bishop d4, you can't even protect the knight anymore.
This looks so dangerous.
Yeah, queen e5, that's just go back and move bishop f8, protected e6,
and
made the king feel a little bit safer. Queen e5, though, you're walking into fire.
Yeah, no, the queen does not have a lot of squares. And what are you gonna do now, actually? Because the knight, bishop takes c6 now. King f8. That king is not looking very safe either.
No, it's an extra pawn for white. So this worked out. I wonder Yeah, I think bishop f8 instead of queen e5 was better, but still, I feel like white had a pretty decent attack brewing there. And I was going to ask you, Anna, but I don't think it will matter. It's a minute and just under 20 seconds left for this time control. And Gunina's going to keep playing. There's no reason to resign ever. But my essential question was, do you think Gunina feels better about the 3 minute plus 1 second increment blitz, or would she have wanted another 5 minute game?
I think she wants the 3+1. I do think she wants to. At the same time, I mean, Kosteniuk, she's so strong. She's, as I said before, she's always streaming. She plays a bunch of different online tournaments, so she's very used to playing with low time control. But at the same time, I mean, we could see yesterday, Yuan Jun. I mean, it was both the confidence maybe that made her play better after, but she was playing very well and she was very quick when she had little time. And I think
Right.
that her very attacking playing style as well can go her way when there's very little time on the clock. So I think that she might want to go to a 3+1, but I'm not sure. What do you think?
No, I think she does. I was just because there's certain moments where if you feel like you're going to lose this game regardless, but you feel like 5 minute time control is your best possibility, then you resign. And I'm not suggesting that it's what she should do because I think the position is very complex here. But there are moments where you say, this doesn't feel good. Let me just get one more in. And that is a strategy we've seen employed in various speeches championship matches. So here she still has a lot of fight left. So I would definitely not encourage her to resign anytime soon. I think that Black's position is improving, where you can play rook to d8, so trying to trade pieces. h5, she's playing adventurously, trying to hit g4. Behind the pawn is unprotected bishop on f4. I like it, actually. I like this move h5.
Yeah, I also don't think that Gunina is the type of person who would resign. I think that she always sees hope. I think that she always feels like she can do a comeback. So I really don't think that she's the type of person who would resign. Yeah, no, especially from her style of play and stuff. So
Right. And well, so what's happened now is white is down a pawn, but has a clear initiative. Look at this bishop on e6, the pawn on f5, hitting this bishop on g6. So white has tremendous activity, tremendous piece coordination. And I actually don't know exactly what Gunina should do here because bishop h7, I mean, you can look at g5 and then g6, trapping your bishop on h7.
feels horrible. It really does. There's just nothing to do. It's sad. Definitely. And the bishop on g3 is actually quite a good piece, I guess, because it's also protecting the king from eventual checks at some point, maybe. So it's a very good piece. b4.
Oh, knight d5 with so many threats here. Knight c7 is a threat. You get knight e7 is a threat with bishop d6 to follow. And if you take on d5, it's with the rook hitting your queen, while the bishop on g6 is still left under attack. No, this is not fun. This is not fun at all. And this
This is
is the
not
last
fun.
game.
Gunilla is not having fun.
It's the last game of the 5 minute portion. The time is up in this segment. So no matter what happens here, we will be moving on to 3+1 next.
Yeah. And what do you think about Bullet? Who do you think would be the strongest one in Bullet out of these two?
I would have to say Kosteniuk because of her experience. She's played in so many events over the years, whether it's Title Tuesday, Arena Kings. She has great experience there. Queen takes e6, it restores the material, but here you can even just play rook f5 check and you win a piece at the end. So rook f5, that was me blundering a rook. Rook f5.
I thought that was the move being played.
No, and then g5, you win the piece here. So
yeah.
I hear the ambulance, the sirens, they're coming for my mouse slips. Oh, wait.
I mean, I felt my heart really, really beating there after that.
Oh, that was so nice what she did as well. She went rook f1
wow.
check to bring the king on the same line as the queen. So it's a rook e1. Now the queen has to leave the diagonal, and there should be a discovery, though. Queen c6 pins this rook here. Queen takes g6. Okay, where's the game? Just rook e. Wait, rook e6, queen f7.
What's happening here? Take, another exchanging. Whoa, this feels not as good as before, though.
Not even close. Rook c2 check. And how many pawns does black have? Currently, black has 2 pawns for the piece. H takes g4. You can take on a2 or play rook c4. I'm not sure which is.
Wait, sorry, for the e7 piece, yeah.
Yeah. So it's still 2 pawns, but they're very good pawns.
2 passed pawns there. I mean, this is definitely a very good outcome for Ganina in comparison to what there was before.
And a very smart move g6 because she could not allow white to play g6, as that would have caused the black king some difficulties. Here, you give up this one b3, b2 coming, and you have to play king g2, otherwise rook d1 check. Now rook d5, you take on g5.
Yeah, she's gonna have that pawn.
She made it work.
How is this, Robert? This endgame?
It's a draw by objective measures, but by thinking of the time situation, I think that white has very good chances to win.
Yeah. No, yeah, of course. I guess that this requires quite precise play. But imagine that they got to a rook and bishop versus rook, because that's, it's I guess technically a win, of course, but that's also not super easy, I guess.
Well,
or
rook and bishop,
how is it?
Yeah, rook and bishop versus rook at the start is a theoretical draw, like if your king's in the center of the board. But the problem is it's so easy to kick your king to the side of the board. Like right now, you need to know how to defend. So it's already looking scary. Here comes rook g3. Play rook g3 check now. It's getting closer and closer to a checkmating net. And with 4 seconds, 3 seconds, there it is. Just king f5.
Yep.
And after rook f8 check, there's bishop f6. Your king is mated. Here you play rook a7 or rook b7, same idea. The red is bishop f4 check. Now play bishop f6. And now you're going to bring your rook to b4. Or, well, now it doesn't matter. But rook b4, rook h4, and it's checkmate. So it was objectively a drawn position, but practically the player with just the rook loses this like all the time.
Yeah, very difficult, especially in bullet. So absolutely.
And
this is very exciting. The time is up for this time control.
It is, and Kosenik was shaking her head in disbelief. I saw like, and what kind of crazy game was that? I should have won so easily. Then I almost didn't win, and finally she did get the full point. She's up 2-1. We will be back in a few minutes, and when we return, we'll move on to the 3-minute plus 1 second increment time segment. Everybody, you won't want to miss it. We'll be back in a few for more of this FIDE.chess.com Women's Speed Chess Championship Grand Prix.
See you very soon.
Well, Alexander Kosenik has a 1 point lead over Valentina Gunina. That was a very long game, 72 moves, and she finished as the victor. Anna, we go to the 3 minute blitz part of this time segment. No, part of this time, part of the match. I can't even speak English. The break didn't do me any good. But Gunina came back yesterday. Do you think she will be able to today as well?
Yes, I really think so. 3+1, I think the lower time control is going to be better for her, I believe, just like it was yesterday. So we're going to see if that's true. But I do think there's going to be quite a close match, just like the other one. So it's 2-1 right now, but I do think that Gunina is going to be able to come back. But Kosenik is very, very strong. So it's gonna be tough. But we'll see. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I don't really know. I feel like Kosenik has to be the favorite, both because she's up a point already, but also because of her vast experience playing online. And we've seen this sort of setup before. And the white knight's already on d2, which means the pawn on g2 is still kind of a little soft here. Like if you move the bishop out, she can take on g2, but then rook g1, and Kosenik too solid of a player to just gobble up that pawn on g2. It's maybe a little too greedy for her style.
There might be some bishop h6 as well.
Yeah.
After rook g1.
Yeah, she.
Ooh, can you now take that one g? No, there's the same idea.
I think you can if the bishop goes to g3. Okay. I know it's scary to do so, but I feel like from an objective point of view, you can steal that pawn and get away with it. But from a practical point of view, you steal that pawn, you suffer. So, what do you do? Okay, you don't take it.
She's not going for it. Oh, I would have been excited if she went for it. Look at her, castling queenside, not scared.
She's saying you can't provoke me enough into taking that pawn, and it's still available. Now I wouldn't do it because the g file is actually open and h7 is hanging with check. So this is a threat. Bishop takes h7 because the knight on f6 is pinned to the queen. But there may still be other instances where this pawn can be captured. So
yeah, and now, well, it's sort of going to be a little race, isn't it? Black's going to try to attack the queen, the white king, and white's going to try to attack the black king. So we're going to see who's going to be the quickest or d5, closing the center. And a6, d5 is typically the idea, I guess.
Here it comes. And you're sacrificing. It's funny because Senna didn't want to win a pawn, but she's willing to sacrifice a pawn. But after b5, you can just take it, but you don't even have to take it. That's the annoying thing about these types of positions. So I think, do I take on f6 or I'm trying to just play h4. That's my idea. So if I take on f6, you take with the bishop, I play h4. I'm just trying to throw my pieces at you. She plays bishop g3, b5. Wait, and can I just take this?
It's going to be h4 immediately, or will you take there? No, you don't want to play h4 yet.
See, I want my pawn a2 because now there's b4, which breaks open more with the queen side. So I'm a little annoyed that my pawn's on a3 now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the problem when you push. Oh, she goes for h4. When you push the pawn in front of your king, and there's this little raise. So black is pushing their pawns, white is pushing their pawns, but white has the pawn on a3, whereas black doesn't have a pawn on h6, and then it can become a bit. The white king could become a bit more vulnerable than the black one quite quickly.
And that's why Gunina went knight to b1, and so she can take on a3 with her knight and not open up more files. So now knight takes a3. And, well, your semi-open file is the b file, but rook ba, queen b6. It doesn't look that threatening, although it's the right idea. And can I just play g5?
Wow, these pawns are moving quickly, though. The G and H pawns are moving quickly.
And the F pawn. Don't forget about that one. Oh, my gosh. This is looking very scary here.
Yeah, I think I'm liking this for white.
I just don't know what black does. You have no space over here.
That's the problem. So knight a... No, there isn't even knight a4. I was going to say knight a4, but then I'm just blundering a knight, so obviously not. But that's the idea, I guess, with bishop d7. But
she played knight to b1, trying to go knight c3. I'm just trying to figure out, does white have all day? What is black actually going to do here? And can white just sit on the position for a long time?
So let's say if knight a4, then does white just go b3? I guess that's just what white does, right? Because there's not a dark square bishop that can... attack the king yet, it feels like.
Sorry,
The
you don't
bishop
like
is
this?
stuck on e7.
You don't like that bishop on e7? Looks like a pretty good pawn to me.
It looks like a very, very nice big pawn. That's exactly what it looks like. Queen c7.
H6, I think, just wins on the spot. And the reason why is typically if you play h6, black wants to avoid opening up the king and play g6. But if they're h6, g6, there's queen c3, threatening queen g7 checkmate. So that was, knight e4 is a good move. h6 still is here available to you.
Yeah, I think though that this is exact position that Gunina wants to have. This is her dream position. This is what she likes to play. Oh, she's exchanging pieces here now though.
Oh, but this black king, definitely not a happy king there. Either allow this capture on g7 and opening the g file, or you play g6, which opens up the h file. So yeah, this doesn't look very good. Not very promising at all. Not to mention that white can just play bishop h4, rook e7, things like that.
Now the black king has had better times, to be honest. So now, but how does exactly white proceed? Because I guess if white takes on g7, the king is not going to take there. The king is just going to stay.
Agreed.
That's what you do sometimes.
It's an umbrella for the king, right? When there's a white pawn there. So bishop h4 keeps the tension, and now queen g3 is coming. Okay, there has to be a mate down. Rook g1. Rook g1 is just crushing. Yeah. Sack on g6. I mean, it's just rook g1 now. You're kind of encouraging me to do it.
Time for rook g1. It feels that way. g6 would be the only move, and then it feels like there should be a bunch of sacks there. Just take.
Exactly. That was my hand gesture. Take.
Oh, she went with a queen.
Yeah, she'll play f5. And then she'll sack her rook on e5 if she has to. And the d6 pawn's also under attack. Queen g5, queen h6. But yeah, this is just...
She's not even thinking about it.
Ouch. This king. gf7, queen g7, queen e7, checkmate. Gunina. What a performance there.
What a game. Wow. 2-2.
Yes. And okay, this it's funny. This position now in the Caro-Kann, apparently it really likes white in the start of the Caro-Kann, but no, now it's like, oh, it's just about level. So the eval bar has normalized here back to its actual evaluation. And we have two bishops for white here. But the bishop on g2, and I say this a lot, I feel like I start with something, then I emphasize, but I'll work on that. So I'm going to change it up a little bit. However, the bishop on g2 isn't exactly the strongest piece in the world because it's blockaded by all of black's light square pawns. So the bishop is not seeing the open space that a bishop really craves.
Exactly. And I did not say that bishop on c5. I was going to say if f4 was going to be an idea, but the bishop on c5 is stopping that. So no f4 yet. No f4. But maybe there could be some f4 if the king moves. But
king h2, f4 makes sense to me. And she played it.
Yeah. Even trying to push maybe to f5 at some point if you want to. There we go, f4.
I see you. You want to go f5, and then you want to go f6, and you want to say, hey, Gunina did that last game, so let's try it again.
Exactly. That's exactly what I think that Castañuc wants. She wants to do what Gunina did. I mean, everyone wants to do what Gunina did. That was an amazing attack.
And I didn't like e5 by Castañuc because it closes the center of the board. She didn't keep the tension. This notion of pawn tension, of when to release the tension, it's a hard one to really understand fully. But when you play e5, now the position is closed, where at some point, maybe I wanted to take this pawns here and open up the e-file for my queen. So she closes that down in advance, and black plays h6, taking away the g5 square. That would have been annoying. And, well, how does white proceed? Maybe c3, but then black plays c5. I think black still can play c5 or a5. How does white fully open up this position?
That's the big question. Now we see c3, just like you said. But yeah, difficult to know. Just like I said, after e5, it feels like white really closed down the position there. And black does have quite a nice knight on d5. But now rook c1 is a4. not a4.
No, a4 I think
Like,
was a decent option, but maybe now. I mean, you can still play it, but with the queen on d7, it becomes harder to execute.
yeah, I just thought that if the rook is gonna stay on a1, it's gotta do something.
And I think you can do it. A4, b takes over queen d1, just scoop that pawn back up. The bishop on b6 is a particularly good defender, though. It protects a7, and the a7 pawn protects it. So I think it's pretty good. Did you ever play Super Smash Brothers, the video game?
No, I didn't. Wait, is that with Mario? No.
Yeah, well, there are all the characters. So there's like
Oh yeah,
Mario.
the whole bunch. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a fox, Pikachu, all that stuff. So I actually call that structure with a7 and bishop on b6, just in general, when a pawn protects a bishop and a bishop protects the pawn, I call it the ice climbers, which are characters in Super Smash, which they come as a tandem and they protect each other and build off of one another. So I actually just got an emote for that. So that's why I brought it up. And anyway, I'm getting an emote. I haven't had it made yet, but it's in the works. But anyway, so
that's
here,
awesome.
here I like black's position. The pawn on d4, the bishop on b6, working together very well for this e3 square. I'm looking to get this knight to e3. That's what I want to see happen for black, is knight to e3. But knight on c2 says not so fast.
You know, this b4 move, I like it. I feel like this rook on a1 is really not doing anything. And if b3 is ever played, then the square on c3 is just going to be amazing.
Right.
So it does feel like the rook is a bit stuck on a1 there now.
And if black plays b3, that would force the knight out. So it's like white can't play b3 and black can play b3, but she's waiting. And I think that you don't want to rush a move like b3. And rook c, this is just so good for black right now. And
feels amazing.
Can you play knight c3? Not my pieces, so I'm happy to sacrifice them. But if you take, I take with the d pawn, and then I have a pass c and a pass b pawn, just rushing up the board.
I think I should think about it, though. I do think that Gunina thought about it. It feels like a Gunina move to play knight c3.
She's thinking about it right now. She's thinking about it. She might play knight e3, which is just safer, and then you take with the pawn. So looks pretty good. Yeah, now you have passed pawn there. This looks too easy for black at this point. If you allow my bishop into d4, closing the position, this is a passed e3 pawn. My rook's on the open file. Not so good.
Gunina is playing so well. Incredible. I mean, yeah, 2-2. Like, she could really do a big comeback. She has a great position this game too.
She does.
d4.
I would play queen c6, queen c2. Oh, she was queen c8, but she wants to have the rook on c2.
Yeah.
Probably better. Keeping more pieces on the board, making white's king feel unsafe. And this knight on d5 is such an excellent piece.
Yep, and look at the time as well. 20 seconds versus a minute 15. A minute up for Gunina. That's huge when it's 3-minute games.
Indeed it is. And bishop takes d4 is a pawn that can be just scooped up right now. I understand the knight moved to e1 so that the bishop on g2 could take the knight on d5, but that's not really that scary. And actually trading the rooks, you have a passed pawn on e3. Oh, queen d2. Here comes that pawn. You can't stop it. e2, e1. It just resigns.
She just resigns. 3-2 for Gunina.
Gunina takes the lead for the first time in the match, right?
Yeah, she does. And, well, 16 minutes, so it's still going to be a few more 3+1 games, but she's won both of them. Both of the 3+1 games. It feels like this might be her time control. And
the evaluation bar was still thinking that we're at the last game with Gunina as the black pieces is all the way down at like -5 or whatever. Now it's back to its. No, wait, this looks really bad for black. Wait, this looks like a bad variation of the Vienna, because the knight's in e4. Now the knight can. I'm looking at knight g5, bishop d3 type stuff. I don't know. Maybe I'm mistaken, but somehow the move order felt imprecise.
Yeah, no, it did look good for white. Absolutely. I like these positions for white in general. It feels like white has a lot of space when the pawn gets to e5, and there's a lot of attacking, attacking material, basically. I mean, it's easy to attack the king, it feels like, because there's no knight f6, but I guess that pawn is going to be lost soon.
Yeah, this e5 pawn can be captured, but you're going to pay oh, she does it. I think you just take with a knight, and then there's queen h5 coming, or f4 first. I don't know which is, maybe like f4, knight f6 check. I mean, the attack kind of plays itself because black only has a king here and none of the pieces. So f4, I think, is a good move. You force the queen back out to c7 because the queen can't go to f5 as this, there it is. The bishop has the square under control. Oh no, this looks so scary. Here comes knight f6.
So quickly, so quickly. I mean, what move are we on? We're move for 13. And this already looks very good for white. So do you think that something went wrong in the opening for black? Like something big that you played an inaccurate move order or something? Or what happened? How could Gunina get to such a good position in 13 moves?
In general, I mean, knight f6 check, I think, just wins because if you have to take with the pawn and then bishop takes and everything's open here. But to answer your question, wait, is the bishop trapped?
E3.
The bishop's trapped. She just trapped the bishop.
Huh.
So she didn't even go for knight f6 check, which I think was crushing and very much in Gunina style. She just showed some restraint and resignation because she's winning a piece and still winning. Winning
14
position,
moves.
But to answer your question, that position was in Gunina style, very aggressive, like tactical type of position. And I kind of recognized early on that it seemed like something was amiss and that black made an inaccurate move order. I'm not exactly sure where that moment was, but maybe you throw in an earlier h6 or something like that for black. I'll have to look at it in more detail, but these little nuances, like a single move, can change the entire game.
Yeah. No, definitely. Especially when you're playing against so strong opponents. Everyone's so strong. A little inaccuracy can really, really bounce back and be bad for you. So, wow, leading by 2 points already.
Yes, she's up by 2. She was down by 1 entering this. So she won 3 straight games. And for Kostyanyuk, you have 13 minutes left in this time control. And you have a better position right now. You have more space for your pieces. It's kind of a standard chess queen type of position, in my opinion. Just kind of easy to play on her end. Doesn't need to rush any decisions. You can play c5 if you'd like, but then you're giving up the d5 square to black's knight. So she plays c5. I was about to say, I think I'd prefer not to play that move, but when you're down 2 points in a match, you kind of want to play aggressively.
Yeah, of course. And I guess, and that can be a bad thing too, that you just feel like you have the need to play aggressively because you need to get points, and that can really backfire.
And I think in this position, it's going to backfire because black now has relatively easy play. Without the pawn being on c5, it's unclear how black should go for pawn breaks. Here, I think b6 is what you're looking at. So queen on a5. I'm not sure you'd be able to play b6 so easily, but maybe still. Oh, is she trying to sacrifice an h6? I don't think so. Maybe.
Who knows?
No.
It feels too risky to do that already.
Yeah, it feels like it's playing wishful chess. And she's only now 2 points, so it's not like she needs to go for a win at all costs. She's not in that kind of territory.
Still 12 minutes of this time control, and then there's 10 minutes of the bullet time control, 1+1.
Right, and we think that Kostyanyuk is a favorite in the bullet, but we also thought she'd be a favorite in several time controls. But so far, it's been all Gunina in 3+1. It was 2-1 Kostyanyuk in the 5 minute, 3-0 for Gunina in this 3+1. And well, let me ask you, how do you continue this position here from black's point of view, where your pieces do lack a little bit of space? So what do you? Okay, she plays b6, but I know what you're about to say, so I'm gonna throw it over to you. Oh, she played it before you could even say it. I knew you were gonna say, wait, if you play b6, Robert, the c6 pawn, and this looks troubling.
Yeah, no, this looks good. That c6 pawn immediately, that's always the problem with b6, that the c6 pawn becomes so weak, and now I can see that the threat is, well, maybe not yet, because there's a queen on c1, so there's a bit of a pin there with a rook on c8, but yeah, it's going to become a weak pawn for the rest of the game, the c6 pawn, so there's maybe not that much rush into taking it.
You can't take on b6, though, because even though the rook would look like it's pinning the knight, and she does it, after knight takes c6, I'm hitting the queen, I'm hitting this bishop with check.
Oh, the queen was hanging. So sorry, I missed that the queen was hanging.
No, you're all good. And so I think you have to take with the queen on b6, but then you're
Hmm.
walking in to this bishop. So then there's maybe d5. Like, every single move seems to backfire here for black, but I ultimately think you have to take on b6 with the queen because pawn takes, just knight takes c6 looks like too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because pawn takes knight c6, actually, there's no way to protect your bishop on e7. That bishop's under attack, queen's under attack. The best you can probably do is sacrifice an exchange on c6, and that's a big issue.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. So queen takes b6 and knight c4. Do you think a d5 was a better move?
Yes, for sure. If you can play d5 and crack open a position, you play d5. Knight
Yeah.
c4, I think she's not quite trusting her calculations right now because she's lost 3 games in a row. I think she's lost some of her confidence, and she would see a move like d5 in any other situation. But she moved knight c4, after 9 seconds, and not playing tactically right now. And I think black's position is about to be fine.
Yeah. Now it feels like black is just getting all their pieces together and really take advantage of the fact that d5 was not played, because if d5 was played, the pawn on e6 could also have become very weak after take, bishop
right.
take, if knight takes, bishop take. So that would definitely have been something that white would have loved to do. And now also pawn on d4 is going to be a bit weak maybe, as it's an isolated pawn. So yeah, that was maybe a missed opportunity for Kosteniuk, but
Bishop b4.
that's the sad part.
Bishop b4. I was about to say you want to take with the queen, but you lose an exchange.
You lose an exchange. You lose an exchange. But what I was going to say is that it's the sad part when you lost so many games in a row, is that a lot of times it really feels like you cannot trust yourself because you think that you've been doing something wrong. And that's a horrible feeling.
It certainly is. And I think that Kosteniuk is feeling the pressure. She's an amazing player. She can still come back, even if she loses this game, her fourth in a row, and then be down 3 points. She's still capable of coming back. But she needs to do something. Wait, knight takes f7? I would probably take on f7 here. She does knight back to f3. Okay, not my pieces, but I wanted to open up an attack on the e6 square.
She's going back?
I don't think Gunina is repeating. Nope, she was queen h5. It's not that easy for black to try and win this position because it's very closed, but now you allowed c5. So allowing c5, I think, is a big mistake. But she can take and put a bishop on c3. And at least her bishops are aiming towards the black king, right? Both these bishops here.
Yeah, this just looks so good. This looks... it feels like maybe Kosteniuk lost it a bit in the last. Oh, she's taking there though.
She
Wait
found
a
a
sec.
tactic. So
you got a tactic.
And also,
there was forget what I said.
There was almost a back rank checkmate because the bishop was on h7. So if you'd taken with the rook on d5 or the queen, there would have been a back rank checkmate. I'll try to. There's not enough time for me to show that. I can maybe after this game concludes, I'll show it. But this position now has 2 pawns and a knight for a rook. So black is still better. Oh, rook takes c3 and rook takes c5. That way you could have won 2 minor pieces for the rook and been up a piece. Still would have been difficult to win, but yeah, this is going to be very hard to win. Actually, I'm not sure this is going to be a win. This configuration with the pawn and the bishop is very solid.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like you said, what was the name? The ice? No,
the
what
ice
was the
climbers.
Name? Ice climbers. Those are the ice climbers on b2 and c3.
Somehow it sounds a lot cooler when you say it, so I'm gonna let you call them the ice climbers. But I'll be happy to have come up with the idea.
All credit to you, Robert.
So what white is going to do is just shuffle back and forth and not commit to anything. Black is going to try to play h5. I think h5 right now and take on g4 and create double isolated pawns.
Yeah, and also makes the white
queen
king.
h1's mate. She buttered mate on h1.
Whoa.
Aye.
Wow.
Oh.
3 points.
And it's I saw how she smiled. She kind of like shook her head. You can't believe it that this is happening. But for Kosteniuk, she's capable of coming back. She's an amazingly strong player. But right now, everything possible is going against her. And h4, this is, I think, an overly ambitious opening choice by Gunina. This bishop on b7 hits g2, which you can now capture because of black's Fianchettoed structure here. So I don't really like this h4 move. I think it's good most of the time in blitz chess. But I don't know. If you're up 3 games, you've won 4 games in a row. Is there really a need to play for this hyper aggressive style?
I don't think so, but at the same time, it's Gunina who's playing, maybe this is her style of play, but I don't think that she has the necessity of doing it that. But at the same time, you don't really, when you're up a bunch of points, you don't really want to be playing too passively either. Of course, you can play other things, but you don't have to play too passively because a lot of times when you start doing that, then that could backfire as well. So I think it's good that Gunina is still playing very actively and still, trying to win, even though she could probably just draw a bunch of games and win the match. I think it's good that she's playing actively.
Yeah, I think so too. But I guess in this particular position, okay, well now that things are about to open up, I'm liking her position more. I was about to say Black has the bishop pair, Black's king is castled, and White's king is still stuck in the center. So you're going to have to do something about this king. And if you go queenside, I'm going to play c5 eventually, start trying to break open the position. She instead, it's funny, she started actively, and now she said, Anna and Robert, you guys are wrong. I'm doing this just so I can trade queens and simplify into a position that I think gives me good chances in a queenless middle game. So Kostenik doesn't trade queens.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And
Well, ooh, h5, yes. Oh, she's really playing very, 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 not risky, but she's playing very, very, very attacking chess there.
yeah, this pawn on d4 is actually just hanging because the queen was
Yeah.
pinning down the e-file, so she could have taken twice on d4. Now that the king is castled, that's no longer a possibility, but some tactical opportunities missed by Kostenyuk. It seems like she found some last game with that bishop takes e6 and all that stuff, but right now it still feels like she's not trusting herself.
Yeah, we could see that in the other game with the tactics. She was not really trusting herself with the tactics before. And that's a problem because tactics is such a big part of chess that if you don't really feel like you can calculate all the way through and you don't trust your gut feeling, then that could, that could be decisive. That could really backfire. So,
and I'm looking forward to the f5 square and a knight getting there. So instead of the knight e4 that we're always so happy about for me, a knight on f5, I know, Anna, is your favorite square for a knight.
Yeah, it is. F5 is my favorite square of the night. My F5 is your E4.
Can White do that though? Can White just play like knight f1, knight g3, or knight e2, knight g3, one of these type of maneuvers? That's what I want to see happen, because that if that knight gets to f5, that's a big problem for Black.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a lot of times the plan to play knight f1, knight g3. And once again, the knight on f5 now, just like you said, it could be a big piece there because both the queen and the bishop are attacked, but also the h6 pawn is weak. So it really does feel like it could be a huge piece on f5, the knight.
And well, she played e4, opening up the position, and Ksenia goes in for a bit of a think, and she should, because it's a complex position. There's all this tension on the e4 square. You had 4 black pieces attacking it and 4 white pieces defending it. So d4 was the choice instead. Now c5 feels vulnerable.
Yeah.
I think you take on a4 just to protect c5, but then the light squares are under white's control.
Yeah. This looks good for Gunina again. Feels like knight c4, yes, amazing. This pawn on e4 could maybe push at some point and become strong. There's a lot of potential here.
Yeah, and I don't see a plan for Black. It's easier to see certain plans for White. Knight to c4, e5, as you said. Maybe pushing the a4 pawn to a5 just to keep it on a protected square. Knight b3 comes to mind to hit the pawn on c5. So I see queen a3. I see a number of moves here for White because White has more space and more attacking possibilities. Here's rook takes c5. Oh, but then a4 falls. So I think that perhaps Kostenik was smart to go for this. Now take on a2. Knight d7. She won an exchange, though. Not the end of the world, but definitely not what you had wanted to see. How about d3, though? d3, queen takes d3, because otherwise d2 happens, and then rook to d8, pinning your knight. She was queen e6.
She's going back. She's so low in time, 15 seconds versus a minute and a half. That can also show the confidence, the time, definitely.
Yes, and unless she loses or the game ends somehow in the next 20 seconds before that, this will be the final game of the 3 minute. And I don't think the game will end anytime soon because black has a bishop and a pawn for rook. And here comes this d pawn. Here it comes.
Here it comes. 8 seconds left of this time control.
Ooh, queen e6. I think you can just trade the queens off and then play rook to. Ooh,
but it's over. No more games after this one. So after this, we'll see the bullet games.
We will. And bishop d4 followed by e5, trying to defend a7. And the bishop is in the ice climber formation that we have grown accustomed to in this game. This bishop is so strong on d4. And here comes the black king. So king
here comes the black king. Yeah. Black's pieces are quite active, though. That is true. But white's rooks are so too.
You rook a4 now. You win the a5.
Yeah. It's just so tough.
Rook takes a5. It's only one check on c3. White won by resignation. Wow, I'm surprised by that. But the time is up, which means that it's about to be bullet. And Gunina has a 4-game lead. She swept the 3+1 5-0.
Every single game she won in the 3+1, absolutely incredible. We didn't know which one was going to be a favorite in 3+1. We thought Castaño, but Gunina won all games there. So we will see how it goes in the bullet. 10 minutes of bullet starting very soon. Don't go anywhere, guys. It's going to be very exciting.
And we return here with Valentina Gunina with a 6-2 advantage. That means that Alexandra Kostanek will probably have to win every single bullet game. Anna, this is going to be an impossible task, don't you think?
It's going to be a very difficult task, that's for sure. 4 games in a row, it's very difficult. It's not impossible. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult. We'll see if she's able to do that. But if Gunina manages to win one more game, it feels like it should be over, right?
It's getting that way. Even a draw, if it's a long draw because you have 10 minutes of bullet chess with the 1 minute plus 1 second increment, that means that a long draw, let's say you take 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes off the clock with that draw, you're already getting into territory where it's going to be difficult to come back. But look at the ratings. Kostanek is a much higher bullet rating, and here she goes.
Absolutely. We'll see. It's going to be very exciting.
It will indeed. And okay, playing the King's Indian attack, I think is a good choice. Very easy to play, more or less from the white side. And she trades on d5. She's going to try to play maybe knight. I was saying knight c3, but she was queen b3 first.
Do you think that now Gunina is going to try to play not as attacking as before, that she's going to be playing a bit more, like she didn't do before? She was playing very, very, very attacking chess before.
She's in big trouble now because that bishop on h5 is about to be trapped. G4, I think, just traps the bishop.
Oops. Ooh, the bishop on h5.
Just take that thing. And look at
just take
Kostanek.
it, yeah?
In the first game, Kostanek says, well, I'm not afraid. Here I come. Here comes the comeback. And it's an extra piece for white. But it's not just about the game, right? You need to play and win quickly. As I look at the match clock, 9 minutes left. So if she wins the next minute, she feels good about her chances, at least having the opportunity to get a comeback. Or knight g6. Just start taking all the material. And if you're Gunina, never resign.
That's true. No, she's never going to resign. And especially it's good to not resign now because she wants this game to take as much time as possible. I mean, she wants to get into an end game, even if she's a piece down. She just wants to make sure that this game does not end quickly and that she does not give Kostanek more chances to win other games. So she's not going to resign for sure.
And this position still has life left in it. Black has 1 pawn for the piece, but here comes rook a1 to g1. This bishop would love to go to square like d4 or c3. So knight e5 right now hits the queen, opens up the g file. This seems like it should be relatively straightforward, but we're about to have 8 minutes left. So this game is taking at least 2 minutes of time, and that's a problem when it's not on your side.
Yeah, absolutely. She's going back. h4, king h7.
Oh,
she wants to sneaky. She wants to put pressure on that f5 pawn.
Mm-hmm. And queen g2 now. Put all of the pressure on g7.
Is it rook d8?
Is she going bishop f8 next? She's about to go bishop f8. Oh my gosh, bishop f8 just hit. Oh,
beautiful.
Gosh. Everything hits g7, and there's no way to defend this. But if I'm Gunina, I play a move, like any move, just keep the game going. Or I lose on time. Maybe she just lose on time. No, she resigns. That's an important 12 seconds there.
Yeah, those 12 seconds could be the start of another game.
And the thing is, what's difficult is because these players have so much respect for one another. They're not, they're not used to just stalling and purposely losing on time after wasting all of it. But that's what you kind of have to do in a format like this. Otherwise, you give your opponent chances to come back.
And absolutely. And it's 3 games now. Gunina should not just take the win of the match for granted. She needs to take some more points. So, or at least 1 point or a half point, something. But she needs to take something.
And the evaluation bar was just doing wild things that I don't understand because the position is just probably slightly better for white. Nothing major here. And knight c5. Well, black's pieces are getting out, but bishop f5 is always just a thorn in black's side, right? That's pinning this knight on e6. And hey, knight e4. Oh, she went knight d7 instead.
I think that Kostanek is ready for a comeback, though. She looks ready, and I think she is.
I'm just worried she may not have enough time. It's coming down to the wire here. 6 minutes left. She needs to score some victories fast.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, knight b3, just challenging the rook. And what next, though? So knight's on b3. It's fine. It's sitting there. I think if I'm Gunina, I'm looking at queen b5 next move to trade queens off. And I would play queen b5 now
Yeah.
and say,
No,
we're
that's
going to,
a very good thing. Try to get into an endgame there. Or
yeah.
endgame, but trade queens. No instant mate, at least. Hopefully, then.
And look at this move, d4. Now the knight on b3, the knight on e6, coordinated very well. Look at this. Bishop takes f3. If you take with the queen, f takes e6 with the tempo, and your knight in c3 falls. If you take with the g pawn, while you took with your g pawn, your king is exposed. Well timed there by Castagna.
Definitely.
And her position is great here.
Yeah, no, it looks really, really good. That f3 pawn looks like it's going to be able to fall at any point. At h3, a king is not looking safe there.
It certainly is not, but e6 is falling. So
that's true.
Queen takes e6 check. And now white is up a pawn, and king to g2. Looks like it saves everything. Queen on e4. What a good queen.
I was looking at bishop e5 before, trying to take on h6, but I'm not sure how that was. Maybe you can play now bishop e5.
I like it. She's just keeping her pieces close together. So bishop e5 is a good move. It seems like she just doesn't want to even risk anything. And she's up a pawn now. Rook c7 is coming. It felt like Castagna had a great position. What happened?
That's the question. What happened? It really did feel that way. She's not taking on f8. I thought she was going to take and try to exchange. But she's going for it. She's going for those pawns.
Yeah, she's going to exchange this way. And now you can play queen e4 check and make a draw if you want, but why would you do that? You're up 2 pawns. Bishop d4, good move. Don't blunder queen takes f2. She doesn't. And look at how much time white has. No, now you're taking on b5. The bishop on g3 is perfect.
Two passed pawns. Oh, she's winning she's winning the bishop.
Mm-hmm. So we see resignation. And with that, under 4 minutes remaining, back to a 4-game lead for Gunina. That is a big problem for Castagna.
Yeah, it feels like this pretty much should have been a decisive game for the match.
Right. All right. That is that feels like it's about it.
But well, Castagna is hungry for some points, so let's see if she's able to take some points at the end. 3 minutes left, 3.5 minutes left.
What's happening here? With this, all these pawns are very advanced here.
Yeah, the pawn just got to f5.
I can't tell because it looks like it's good for black. What's the material count? It's up a pawn for black. Yeah, black is doing well here.
They're playing so quickly. Insanely quickly. 59 seconds versus 53. Absolutely insane. F6. Wow, what's happening here?
It's looking better and better for black with every single move. Here comes queen e3. Yep. Go after this pawn. And okay, now it looks like calmly waiting here. Queen to d4.
Now this is looking really good for black. It's looking better and better. Once again, the pawn on g7 is not going to be taken by the king. It's just making sure that the king stays safe. So the black king does not want to take the pawn on g7. So there are no checks now.
And then knight on e5 is brilliant, right? It protects f7, and there's some threats of knight f3 if the queen and the rook are moved. But so far, it seems like Gunina defending everything brilliantly.
2 minutes left of this match.
Yeah, 2 minutes. That means that this is probably the penultimate game. But for Castagna, she's playing very quickly. She knows that she needs to win every single game in 30 seconds. But for Gunina, playing good defense.
Yeah.
Oh, here comes the H-pawn.
Well, the H-pawn, that rook on f8 is a bit passive.
And now knight takes e5 would have... queen h6 is mate. No, this queen h4. So hg6, queen h6, check, queen h4. Instead, rook g5 played.
Rook g5?
Rook takes rook takes g6. Take this pawn here. And then you'll take on g6 with the queen, put queen h5 check, and scoop up the rook on e2 at the end.
Yep. And she has so much time. I'm sure she'll do it. Yeah, I'm sure she'll do it, yeah?
Yeah. And she probably also realizes that this is closing in on the...
She didn't.
And now the king gets g1, so the king is... Uh-oh. Rook
Oh,
e1
this
check.
looks very. Ooh,
Rook takes f1 and queen b1 check. Oh gosh, here comes queen b1. King g2,
beautiful.
queen h1 mate.
Beautiful.
Gunina's unstoppable. She's unstoppable.
Absolutely unstoppable. Gunina, wow. Playing so good. So good. Wow.
h5, that's just a frustration move. He plays move h5, you're like hoping for some kind of bullet miracle, but this is the final game. 15 seconds counting down, and yeah, it's I think that's well, what's happening here?
Yeah, this is going to be the very last game of the match. Wow. Who would have thought this after the 5+1 games?
It was 2-1 in Kostenyk's favor, and now all of a sudden it's 8-3, and likely going to be 9-3 after this game because White is just rook d6, rook d1, very easy position to play for Gunina.
Well, we can now see what happens when you lose many games in a row. I mean, it just becomes so difficult to keep on playing.
Yeah, and there's no difference if you lose 8-3 or 9-3 or 8-4. You still lost the match, right? So
yeah,
here,
no, of course.
Gunina just pushing all of her pawns. She has control over the entire board. Black's pieces cannot move. This is one of the saddest positions you'll see, and it only happened because Kostenyk, she's just throwing everything at her opponent, and once Gunina fends off the immediate threats, none of the pieces can move. Rook takes b6 now, and
Kostenyk is such a strong player, so this is what can happen sometimes in these time controls and everything, especially when you start losing some games.
Yeah, it's well, that's it. It's a win for Gunina here. That means she wins the match 9-3. She was the last person to qualify for the Women's Futures Championship. Regardless, she has won her match, moved on to the finals. Anna, you and I will take a short break. We'll get Valentina hooked up to the call so we can interview her. So everybody, you'll want to be still here when we come back with an interview with Valentina Gunina. We'll be back shortly. And we return with Grandmaster Valentina Gunina. Valentina, you are amazing. You were down 2-1 after the 5+1 minute portion. Were you nervous at all, or did you know that you had it in you to come back with such a force?
For this week I was so tired because I played over than 100 games. So for me it was like, this game that I lost by, she had a rook and bishop, and I had a rook and pawn, and I was like completely down, just like my brain just stopped to work. Yeah, and after I was thinking like, okay, tomorrow I will have a break, so at least some fun.
Well, tomorrow you have a break regardless because you don't play again until Sunday. So you were going to get that tomorrow off no matter what. The finals are on Sunday. So if you won the match today or lost the match, you still were getting tomorrow as a break. So it's good that you won the match.
No chess on Saturday, whatever happened. Did you feel like you got more energy after? So when you started, winning a few games, did you feel like you got more energy then?
No, because I played every day, like 4 hours, and I was like, okay. At the beginning, I had full of energy, and every day just like less, and today I just like, okay, finally I will have break. But because it's really difficult to play. Not these matches. I mean, okay, every match is difficult, but I mean before the 6 days qualified, it was so tough.
Well, you think that now you played all the qualifiers, you played 3 days of matches. Maybe it's helped you because you have all the experience under your belt. Alexandra, I mean, you know her.
Other girls, they're fresh, but I got used to play. For example, 1+1.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, Alexandra, she has great experience, but this is the second year in a row you beat her in a match because you were down actually, I think 4 games, if I'm not mistaken, last year against Alexandra in the Women's Pieces Championship. So how do you do it? Like, how do you make these comebacks? Also yesterday against Ju Wenjun, I know there were some internet issues, but still.
June, I was so lucky because she had some problem with internet. So
but even after she had the internet back, you were winning a bunch of games.
But when you have it happened with me last year. When you have a problem with internet, your confidence just like down, and it's really hard to come back. Right. So I got my chance.
Definitely, and especially because she was probably thinking about it all the time.
Exactly,
when she was playing, will my internet work now, or when I get into time trouble, will my internet just
every day I'm thinking like, okay, I'm lucky that I have normal internet, but who knows what will happen next day.
That's true. Yeah. But today had nothing to do with the internet. It had everything to do with your good moves. So you must be feeling pretty good about your chess right now.
Yes, because I told you before that I was working so hard this quarantine time, so I'm so happy about myself that I can play like this.
It was beautiful chess. Beautiful.
You went from the last person to qualify into the finals of the first Grand Prix. Like, what do you expect? What are you going to do with your day off tomorrow? Are you going to prepare some for Anna Ushanina, or are you going to just say no more chess for me on Saturday? I'll wait for Sunday.
No, I'm preparing every day some time before my match. So probably I will look what she's playing, some lines that I will prepare, and I will have a rest.
Well, you deserve a rest.
I was about to say the same thing. You definitely deserve a rest. Valentina, thank you so much. It's good to see you playing so well. You're very huge smile on your face. Everybody's happy to see it. So congratulations. And we look forward to Sunday's final.
Good luck on Sunday.
Thank you.
And there you have it. Valentina Gunina moves on into the final. She will take on Anna Ushanina. That will be a very good matchup between 2 Caro-Kann players and 2 players who have proven to be steady forces. I mean, Anna Ushanina was down in her match today against Vaishali. She ended up playing very well in the shorter time patrols and moving on to win her match. Valentina Gunina did much of the same against Kostyuk. So we will have a 3rd place match between Vaishali and Kostyuk, and then a final matchup between Anna Ushanina and Valentina Gunina. And Anna, let me ask you, I mean, Gunina's been so impressive. Do you think she's going to beat Anna Ushanina, or is Ushanina we've overlooked her a bit, and do you think she'll be able to take the finale?
I go for Valentina Gonina. She's just been playing out of this world chess. She's been playing so well today. And I think it's such a good thing to have, such an important thing to have for a chess player to be able to bounce back from a loss. And Eugenina's done the same thing, but I don't know. I have the feeling Valentina Gonina, she's just playing so well. But it's gonna be a close match once again, I think. So it's gonna be very exciting to see what happens this Sunday.
For sure. And as you said, this Sunday, let's show everybody the overall schedule. Tomorrow is a rest day. I think Valentina is thrilled about that, although maybe she should play every single day because she's winning her matches. So if she plays tomorrow, whoever she's playing, it seems like she would have a good chance. And the 28th, that is Sunday, is the final. Then July 1st starts the second leg. It keeps on going. So these players will have a lot more chess remaining. And Anna, it's been another great day of chess. I've had a fantastic time. We saw first Anna Ushanina come back from a little deficit against Vaishali Rameshbabu, and then we saw Valentina Gunina just obliterate Kosteniuk in the 3-minute plus 1 second increment. She swept those matches. Pretty surprising, but I mean, what do you make of today's results?
No, I mean, I think it's once again, just like every day. Well, I've just been here one day, but just like the other day, it's been a day full of surprises. And that's the great thing about this tournament, the Women's Speed Chess Tournament, that there is a bunch of surprises and it's very exciting games. And that's what we've seen here today. I'm very excited to see on Sunday what happens. And also, you know, to see two players who went from the qualifiers here. Both of them went from the qualifiers. I think it really shows that have this practice of the time control is very important in this tournament. But
For sure.
It's been a pleasure to do this with you, Robert. And yeah, I'll be very excited for Sunday.
And I think you make a good point, a good final point about how qualifying, it gives you some momentum, it gives you confidence. And also it goes to show that it's hard to know how somebody will play in online chess versus their FIDE, over the board blitz rating. So on that note, I will see you Sunday. Everybody stick around because the raid will go to the Score Esports. But for now, the Women's Speed Chess Championship comes to a close until Sunday when we get both the third place match and the final. Have a good one, everybody.